So there I was, chilling in a dungeon like a normal person, when a letter from my so-called family basically said, "You're trash, we're disowning you, bye." Cool. Real cool. They kicked me out because I skipped a few classes. Talk about overreacting. But here's the thing. I'm not the original Greg Sass. I'm a guy who got ice guyed into a dating sim. And not just any dating sim. One with the longest, most ridiculous title ever. Even if you're a girl, can you enjoy multiplayer together in this kind of world? Yeah, it's a Yuri game. A girl's love game. And I played it 81 times. Then the universe said, "You know what would be hilarious?" and shoved my soul into the one male character in the entire game. The guy who exists purely to die. I have 1,386 CG illustrations in the game, and 1,380 of them are me dying in creative ways. The devs didn't just dislike this character. They had a personal vendetta against him. Oh, and every important girl in the game. They take one look at my face and feel instant, unexplainable disgust. My face is literally max tier handsome, but the devs coded in aura. Thanks, game designers. Really appreciate that. So naturally, the second I realized who I'd become, I sprinted out of class like my pants were on fire and dove straight into the academy dungeon. Why? Because after 81 playthroughs, I noticed something beautiful. Greg Sass has 0 death CGs inside dungeons. He never goes there in any route, so the devs never bothered scripting his death here. Loophole. Loophole. This dungeon is basically my safe room. Luckily, I got some cheat abilities when I crossed over. The dungeon literally loves me. I've got damage buffs, luck protection, bonus XP, and, my personal favorite, a talent that lets me randomly steal skills from monsters I kill. So far I've picked up gems like underwater adaptation, dirt magic resistance, and whimpering level 3. I don't know what that last one does, and I'm afraid to find out. Life down here is rough, though. I'm camping next to a dark underground river, roasting rabbit horn monsters on a stick, writing a survival diary like some fantasy Bear Grylls. Day 1 I almost died. Day 2 I found a cave. Day 3 I discovered monster flowers that produce something like pepper powder, so at least my grilled meat has seasoning now. Small wins. My master plan is simple. Hide in this dungeon until the heroines finish the main storyline, then walk back to the surface where no more death flags exist. Easy. Foolproof. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Then I heard a scream. I looked up and saw 2 girls, one with gray hair reaching toward the river, one with pink hair getting dragged underwater by something wrapped around her leg. My brain short-circuited. Because gray hair? That's Victoria, the main character. Pink hair? That's Sylvia, the second lead heroine. And Sylvia was about to drown right in front of me. This scene doesn't exist in the game. I played it 81 times. 81. This never happens. None of this is in the script. So basically, I'm standing here holding a half-eaten rabbit kebab, watching the entire plot derail in real time, and all I can think is, what the actual hell is going on? Okay, so the second heroine of the game was literally drowning right in front of me, and my brain did some very fast math. If Sylvia dies, the main storyline breaks, the world probably collapses, and I die anyway. So really, jumping into a freezing underground river wasn't bravery. It was self-preservation with extra steps. Lucky for me, my underwater adaptation level 3 skill turned the dark, raging current into basically a swimming pool. I zipped through the water like a dolphin with a mission and found Sylvia about 5 meters down, tangled up by an octopus monster wrapped around her ankle. She was already fading out, eyes unfocused, pink hair floating everywhere like a shampoo commercial directed by a horror movie guy. She needed air. I had air. The math was simple. I grabbed her face and gave her mouth to mouth. First thought, wow, soft. Second thought, focus, Greg. I blasted that stupid octopus with a water cannon spell, one shot killed it, leveled up to 16, and then the system gave me a brand new skill. Tentacle Entangle level 1. I don't have tentacles. What am I supposed to do with this? But then, and I'm not proud of this, I noticed the dead octopus dropped a magic gem. My first item drop in 5 days of dungeon survival. So instead of immediately swimming Sylvia to safety, I dove deeper to pick up the loot first. She was already unconscious anyway, right? 5 more seconds wouldn't hurt. Probably. I grabbed the gem, then finally brought her to the surface. I burst out of the water gasping for air, and the first thing I see is Victoria, the main character, The woman who has killed me more times than any other character in the entire game, standing on the riverbank in nothing but white underwear. She'd been stripping down to jump in after Sylvia. The dungeon lighting was doing her all kinds of favors. I'm talking pearl glow skin, perfect waist-to-hip ratio, legs that went on forever. It was like walking into a Renaissance painting, except the painting wanted to murder me. We just stared at each other. Water dripping off my chin. Her standing there half naked. Total silence. My mouth moved before my brain could stop it. Nice body? She said nothing. The silence got worse. Okay, damage control. My golden hair was soaking wet and plastered all over my face. So maybe, she didn't recognize me. I deepened my voice and said the smoothest thing I could think of. I'm just a passing river god. Please don't mind me. I placed Sylvia on the shore and started sliding back into the water to make my escape. Then I heard it. Cold. Clear. Absolutely terrifying. Hey, Greg. My whole body froze. Victoria stood there with her arms crossed, gray eyes completely dead of warmth, and asked me how long I planned to keep up the act. She recognized me instantly. The river god strategy lasted approximately 4 seconds. Fine. Cover blown. I climbed out of the water, swept my wet hair back, and tried to play it cool. Look, sis, I didn't mess with you, and I just saved your friend's life. Could you maybe not talk to me like you're about to file a restraining order? I could talk big because this was MY turf. Down here in the dungeon, with all my buffs stacked, I wasn't scared of her. No random plot death traps, no scripted assassination scenes. Just me, my stats, and my hard-earned pepper-seasoned rabbit meat confidence. But Victoria wasn't having it. She started listing the original Greg's crimes like a prosecutor reading charges, who sabotaged the magic device during entrance exams to get me expelled, who announced on the first day that commoners don't deserve to attend this academy. Each accusation hit me like a truck I didn't drive. Past Greg was such an insufferable jerk. I wanted to grab him by the collar and shake him, except he was me now, so that would just be self-harm. I needed to flip this situation fast. I remembered that Victoria has a secret identity as the hero, something almost nobody knows, and that my family, the Sass household, secretly serves the demon race despite being human. So I looked her dead in the eyes and said, with maximum mysterious anime character energy, have you ever considered that maybe I did all of that on purpose? Hero Victoria, drop the bombshell. Let it marinate. And right on cue, a new quest popped up on my screen. Villain Noble's Redemption. Unlocked, clear the first dungeon floor before Act 1 ends. Success. All 3 talents get a full upgrade. Failure. Congratulations on your brand new death, CG 1381. I literally just finished saying the dungeon's kindness was too much to ever repay. So apparently the dungeon heard me and said, great news. Here's the bill. Can I just not repay it? Please? So I just dropped the biggest plot bomb of my life. Told Victoria I know she's the hero, and now she's looking at me like she's deciding which organ to remove first. Who are you? She asked, voice calm, but I could feel the murder radiating off her like body heat. Time to improvise. I needed a story that explained everything. Why I know her secret, why I did all those terrible things the original Greg did, and why she shouldn't kill me right now. My brain went into speedrun mode. I'm actually a messenger of a goddess too, I said, looking her dead in the eyes. You fight demons. I conquer dungeons. Different departments, same company. Technically not even a lie. I literally have dungeon-specific talents, and the system just gave me a quest to clear this floor. I'm basically a dungeon employee at this point. She wasn't buying it yet. That doesn't explain all the garbage you pulled before. It was an act, I said, adding just the right amount of dramatic weight. I needed to get kicked out of the family. Because everyone in the Sass household, except me, one maid, and an adopted sister, is secretly working for the demon race. Victoria's eyes went wide. Gotcha. Then I hit her with the logic knockout. If I actually wanted to destroy you with that sabotaged magic device, why would I go around loudly bragging about it afterward? Am I supposed to be the world's dumbest villain? And honestly, thank you, original Greg, for having one intelligence. Your legendary stupidity made I was only pretending to be an idiot. Excuse actually believable. I bowed to your memory internally. Victoria went quiet. The church had apparently investigated my family before, but never found solid proof. And here I was, the disowned son, just casually handing her classified intel like it was a flyer. I kept going. Told her my blessing came from the goddess of night, not the goddess of light, which is why I couldn't just walk into the church for help. Then I dropped another bomb. Besides, the church isn't exactly united either, is it? If it were, Sylvia would already be the official saint instead of just a candidate, right? Victoria literally stopped breathing for a second. That was insider information even most church people didn't know. I could see the gears turning behind her gray eyes. How does this idiot dungeon hermit know all this? 81 playthroughs, baby. I know everything. She finally said, I'll still keep my doubts. That's totally fine, I shrugged. I'm not trying to fight you, hero. I just want to live in peace. The tension finally eased. And that's when Victoria suddenly realized she was still standing there in wet white underwear this entire time. She stiffened, casually crossed her arms over herself, and gave me the coldest smile in human history. Seen enough? I answered honestly. Not really, no. Look any longer, and I will pop your eyeballs out of your skull. I turned around so fast. After she got dressed, I noticed Sylvia was still knocked out cold and soaking wet. So I pointed to the passage behind me leading to my camp and gave my most charming invitation. Want to come hang at my place until she wakes up? It's pretty spacious. We walked in. Victoria looked around my home, a big empty cave with a campfire, bare rock walls, and my filthy school jacket on the floor as a mattress. If this is your home? Pure disgust. I said it was big. I never said it was furnished. I was wringing out my wet shirt with my back to her, and I caught her glance at my shirtless torso for exactly half a second before she looked away. Listen, the game designers gave me max charisma for a reason. The instant disgust debuff is fighting against raw visual data, and the visual data is winning. Slightly. She sat down on the opposite side of the fire, strategically close to Sylvia, far from me, and started checking her backpack for anything lost during the chaos. Out came healing potions, dry rations, light crystals, spare clothes, normal adventuring stuff. Then she pulled out two unusual items from the bottom, a small dark metal box with weird engravings, and a bundle of dried brown roots that smelled like old leather. The moment I saw those two things, every cell in my body screamed. I knew exactly what those were. Don't eat the sour radish. I screamed so loud the cave walls probably shook. You gray-haired menace. Did you seriously bring care packages all the way down into the dungeon? Because those items? From 81 playthroughs, I knew precisely what they were, what they did, and apparently, what they were absolutely not supposed to be eaten as a casual snack. Okay, so let me explain why I screamed like a maniac at two random objects. That old metal box Victoria casually pulled out, it's a trap. The pretty patterns on it are actually a puzzle lock, and if you open it wrong, which you will, because nobody knows the right sequence, a poisoned silver needle shoots straight through your forehead. I have seen the CG. Greg Sass, flat on his back, tiny red dot between his eyes. Lovely artwork. Absolutely haunting. And that bundle of dried roots, tied with rope? Even worse. You pour a tiny bit of magic into it, put it under your pillow, and at night it comes alive like a snake and hangs you in your sleep. The CG for that one had Greg with his eyes bulging out and tongue hanging sideways. Real nightmare fuel. The art department clearly had issues. So yeah, forgive me for losing my composure when the protagonist casually placed two Greg-specific murder weapons on the ground like they were souvenirs. Victoria was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Did you just call me dead gray hair? Oops. Might have let that slip in the panic. Time to bullshit my way out of this. I put on my most serious religious voice. My deepest apologies, Miss Victoria. As a devoted follower of the goddess of night, I observe certain unique commandments. These two objects are considered unholy forbidden items in our faith. I strongly recommend you dispose of them immediately. She looked at the rusty box and the rope bundle. This is forbidden? An old box and some string? Your religion is weird. Every faith has its quirks, I said smoothly. The Church of Light forbids carving holy statues from black ebony wood because it absorbs resentment, and they ban certain rituals on moonless nights. We have our own rules. Half of what I said was true, half was complete garbage, but Victoria actually knew enough about church customs that it sounded plausible. She shrugged and asked how to get rid of them. Release them into the river. She gave me a look. I mean, flowing water cleanses sins that should not remain in this world. Very poetic. Very holy sounding. Totally made up on the spot. She tossed both items into the dark river. I watched them sink and nearly collapsed with relief. 2 death flags, neutralized. I mentally added a giant note to my survival guide. Even in the dungeon, never let your guard down around plot kill items. Then Sylvia woke up. She groaned, fluttered her eyes open. Victoria rushed to her side, all worried. Very sweet childhood friends moment. Sylvia looked around confused, spotted me, and literally recoiled at a 45-degree angle. Yue, excuse me, is UWH really the first thing you say to the guy who saved your life? Stupid game designers. Every single girl looks at my face and gets instant revulsion. When I was playing the game, I thought this was hilarious. Now that I'm living it, it's not funny anymore. Sorry, Sylvia stammered. Wait, aren't you that arrogant senior Greg? Why are you in the dungeon? Then her memories started coming back. Slowly, dangerously. I remember being dragged underwater. I couldn't breathe. And then, something. Kay kissed me. And then I was pulled deeper into the water. And then everything went black. Kissed? Victoria turned her head toward me at a speed that should have snapped her neck. Her eyes were ice-cold murder weapons. Cold sweat. Instant cold sweat everywhere. Look, these two are childhood sweethearts who are basically destined to end up together. This is a Yuri game. I have zero place in that equation. The mouth-to-mouth was purely medical. But try explaining that when one girl is blushing about a kiss, and the other girl is already charging up magic at her fingertips. I kept my face perfectly calm. My legs were shaking like a chihuahua in a thunderstorm. Total misunderstanding, I said. That was the octopus's suction cup brushing her lips. She confused tentacle contact with a kiss. And she just said she got dragged deeper afterward. Why would I kiss someone and then drag them further underwater? That makes no sense. Unless you think I'm some kind of unhinged creep. Victoria's eyes got colder. Magic light was literally forming on her fingertips. I raised my right hand to the heavens with maximum dramatic sincerity. I swear on my name as the messenger of the goddess of night. I, Greg Sass, did nothing inappropriate to Miss Sylvia. If I'm lying, may I suffer the most terrible curse imaginable. The light on her fingers dimmed slightly. Slightly. Then Sylvia, sweet, innocent, about to ruin my life Sylvia, spoke up. Senior Greg? I actually know a method to verify if someone is truly a messenger of the goddess of night. Would you be willing to take the test? What? Victoria was surprised too. Didn't the goddess of night's religion disappear from history ages ago? There's still a way to verify? Yes, Sylvia nodded. The goddess of light and the goddess of night are recorded as twin sister deities, so the Church of Light preserved some secret rituals that can detect the night goddess's power. They can test for this? My entire cover story can be fact-checked? Can the results at least be kept confidential? Medical privacy laws exist for a reason. Even married couples don't have to share their health records. Surely my fake divine heritage deserves the same protection? So Sylvia wanted to test if I'm really a messenger of the goddess of night. I am not a messenger of the goddess of night. I made it up. Completely. I picked a random goddess name from the game's lore documents and ran with it. This was about to be the shortest con in iSky history. Victoria looked at me with zero patience. You heard her. Get over here. Test time. I tried one last desperate dodge. My devotion comes from the heart. External tests are an insult to faith itself. This is blasphemy. I'm counting to 3. Fine. Fine. Let's do the test. No need for threats. I walked over like a man heading to the gallows. My brain was already drafting excuse speeches for when the test failed. Running wasn't an option. I need these two to help me clear the dungeon floor, or the system kills me with a brand new death CG. Killing them was obviously off the table because, you know, they're supposed to save the world. Sylvia sat up, pressed her palms together, and started chanting some ancient prayer. Golden light poured from her hands and wrapped around my entire body. I closed my eyes. Here it comes. Fraud detected. Initiating execution. But nothing bad happened. Instead, the golden light touched me and started changing. The gold melted away and was replaced by this deep, endless black, not evil-looking, but ancient and mysterious, like staring into a calm night sky. It wrapped around me gently. Sylvia slapped her hands over her mouth, eyes wide as dinner plates. The blessing of night. So pure. She turned to Victoria, voice shaking. He really is a messenger of the goddess of night. I'm sorry, what? I stood there staring at the black glow around my body like it was someone else's special effect. My brain completely blue-screened. I made this up. I literally fabricated this identity 20 minutes ago. How is it real? Victoria stared at the fading dark light, stayed silent for a moment, then finally said in a slightly less murderous tone that I guess you're not completely rotten. At least about this, you weren't lying. I have no idea what's happening, but I'm rolling with it. See? So please stop looking at me like I'm garbage. Deep down, I'm really not a bad person. Sylvia relaxed too, pressing her hands together with relief. Thank goodness. Since Senior Greg is a messenger of the goddess of night, he definitely wouldn't dare do that to me. Huh, I said. Dare do what? She looked confused. You don't know? As a messenger, you should know about this. Abort. I don't know what this is, but the way she's blushing is making me very nervous. I put on my best sheepish face. The night goddess's teachings have been lost for so long. I've forgotten some of the ancient rules and punishments. Could you maybe explain? Mimi explain. Her face went tomato red. She stared at the ground, fidgeting with her clothes. I kept pushing because I genuinely needed to know what she was talking about. Finally, she squeezed her eyes shut and screamed it out like ripping off a Band-Aid. Your thing gets covered in holy light for a year and stops working, and after the year it disappears completely. I stared at her. She buried her burning face in her hands. Senior Greg is so mean, making me say something so embarrassing when you didn't even do anything. I stood in silence for 3 full seconds. Haha. Excuse me. Bathroom break. I walked behind a big rock, took a deep breath, looked down, and, holy mother of, it's real. It's actually glowing. A soft, solid, unmistakably holy white aura was wrapped around my critical infrastructure, like someone had put a divine chastity seal on it, complete with what I swear was faint background choir music. I stared at it for a few seconds. Why does it actually look kinda cool though? Like a legendary tier equipment glow effect. No. Focus. This is a crisis. I walked back to the campfire with the heavy steps of a man who has seen too much. Put on my most distant, philosophical expression. Just asking for a friend, I said, voice hollow. If someone, hypothetically, had this situation, is there any way to reverse it? Victoria smirked. If it's your friend, he's probably worthless scum too. The world would be better off if people like that went extinct. No. I grabbed my fists passionately, eyes actually getting misty. That friend is nothing like me. He's pure. He's kind. He was clearly framed by some cowardly villain. He doesn't deserve this cruel curse, Oscar-worthy performance. Sylvia was genuinely moved. She looked at me with soft eyes, touched by this beautiful display of friendship. There is a way to break it, she said. A purification ritual performed by the saint of the Church of Light. My heart soared. But the current saint hates the goddess of night and everything related to her. She probably won't help your friend. My heart crashed. However, Sylvia brightened up. If your friend can wait, once I officially become the saint, I can perform the ritual myself. My brain immediately simulated that future scenario. Me walking up to Saint Sylvia in her holy robes, saying, "Hey, so remember that kiss underwater? That was me. Also the cursed friend is me. Can you fix my situation?" Hee hee. And then Sylvia's holy smile freezes. Her eyes ignite with sacred fury, and she screams, "I dedicated everything to Victoria, you creep. Die," before blasting me with 1,000 arrows of divine light. Achievement unlocked. Death CG 1381. Purified for indecency at the saint's coronation ceremony. Yeah, asking Sylvia is suicide. So my only option is to somehow convince the current saint, the difficult, night goddess-hating one, to personally fix my holy glow situation before she gets replaced in Act 6 of the story. My life just keeps getting more complicated. Thank you so much. I'll pass this wonderful news to my friend. He'll be thrilled. Moving on. I asked Victoria and Sylvia why 2 first-year newbies were even in the dungeon. The recommended level for floor 1 is 20, and these 2 are way below that. No sane student comes here willingly. Honestly, even in the game, barely any players bothered grinding dungeons when they could be enjoying cute campus romance events instead. I still don't understand why the devs put hardcore dungeon content in a Yuri dating sim. Make it make sense. Victoria hesitated but eventually told me she needed a gem for the upcoming class placement exam. In this world, you can slot gems into magic wands to modify your spells. A split gem makes your fireball divide into 2. An acceleration Gem makes them faster, and so on. Pretty standard RPG stuff. But wait, she should already have a basic gem. In the original story, some idiot challenges her to a duel early on and loses a gem to her. Oh, that idiot was me. But since I speedran myself into this dungeon on day 1, that duel never happened. Okay, but even without my gem, she should have gotten one from the Academy's free starter kit. Unless she picked the absolute dumbest dialogue option when talking to the storage teacher. Let me guess, I said, doing my best impression of a clueless, overconfident protagonist. When the teacher said, pick any gem from the storage, you pointed at the gem already embedded in their personal staff and said, I'll take that one. Victoria frowned. How did you know that she actually did it? She picked the lunatic option. In the game, every event gives you 3 choices. 2 normal ones, 1 completely unhinged. I always thought the third option was the devs being silly. But now I'm starting to realize that insane third option is what Victoria would actually choose on her own. Players were the ones keeping her sane this whole time. Without player guidance, this girl is an absolute chaos gremlin. No wonder she's down here grinding at level who knows what. She speedran herself into poverty on day 1. Respect, honestly. She achieved a level of self-sabotage that I, a man with 1,386 death scenes, couldn't even match. Fine. This mess happened because I wasn't there to lose her a gem in that duel. My fault, my fix. I tossed her the gem I looted from that octopus earlier. Sylvia gasped. That's a reflect gem. Those are quite rare among basic gems. Victoria caught it, then narrowed her eyes at me. What do you want? Consider it a favor. After you pass your placement exam, I need you both to help me clear dungeon floor 1. What if I take the gem and bail? I shrugged. Then I misjudged you. Casual on the outside. Calculated on the inside. After 81 playthroughs, I know this girl keeps her promises. It's literally her core character trait, the reason every heroine falls for her. She talks crazy, she acts crazy, but she never breaks a deal. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Fine, I'll do it. Once Sylvia's clothes dried by the fire, they got ready to leave. Sylvia asked if I wanted to come back to the academy with them. Go back. To the surface? Where every hallway has a death flag with my name on it. I stared heroically into the dark depths of the cave. Channeling maximum anime protagonist energy, my battlefield is here. Before I can conquer this darkness, I must first understand it on a deeper level. Sylvia actually looked impressed. Score 1 for dramatic acting. They turned to leave, but then Sylvia paused and looked back. Oh, Senior Greg, your personal maid, Ellie? After you were disowned, she quit the SAS household on her own. But the academy doesn't allow non-nobles to keep personal servants, so she was asked to leave campus. Ellie. Right. In the game, she's this gorgeous, ridiculously overpowered maid who's fiercely loyal to Greg. Players always felt bad for her because she can't be romanced, and every single time Greg dies, she kills herself right after. A tragic, beautiful, wasted character. Hearing she left the family actually made me happy. She's free now. She won't die because of me anymore. And she's absurdly strong. In some routes, the only reason Greg survived to the late game was because she carried him. Without me as dead weight, she'll thrive. I smiled. Did she leave a message? Sylvia recited it cheerfully. She said, if you don't show your face within 1 week, I will ignore every academy rule, march into the dungeon myself, throw you a magnificent funeral, and then kill myself. Smiley face. Sylvia giggled. What an exaggerated way to express loyalty. You're so lucky to have such a devoted maid, Senior Greg. She waved goodbye and jogged after Victoria. The cave went quiet. Just me and the crackling fire. My smile slowly froze on my face. Here's the thing, Sylvia. That wasn't an exaggeration. She was being completely, 100%, dead serious. So the real question is, how many days ago did she say that? How many days do I have left? Now, I wasn't there for any of this. I was still in my luxury cave resort eating seasoned rabbit. But based on what I pieced together later, here's what went down on the surface after those two left. Victoria and Sylvia stepped out of the dungeon, took 1 breath of fresh air, and apparently had a whole therapy session about me. Sylvia was making my case like a defense attorney. He jumped into a raging river to save me. He didn't have to do that. And the goddess of night blessing is impossible to fake. I'd know. I'm literally training to be a saint. Victoria was less sold, but clearly confused. The arrogant moron from the first week of school and the calm, generous guy who just tossed away a rare gem on pure trust. She couldn't make the two versions fit together. Good. Confusion is better than hatred. I'll take it. But here's where things got weird. Right as they were leaving the dungeon entrance, someone apparently slipped past them and snuck into the dungeon. Victoria caught a flash of movement, but saw nothing when she looked. Whoever it was, they were fast. Before she could think about it, 3 maids in matching uniforms materialized from the shadows like a coordinated ambush squad and surrounded Victoria in a triangle formation. The first maid, short hair, dead serious expression, reached out and pinched Victoria's cheek. Just grabbed her face like she was inspecting produce. The height matches her highness, but the bone structure is different. Not a disguise. Victoria, hey. Completely ignored. The second maid, glasses, intellectual aura, pushed up her frames, looked directly at Victoria's chest, and delivered a clinical analysis. Also, based on comparative data, Her Highness's bust measurements should theoretically have more pronounced contours than this student's. Victoria's forehead vein started pulsing. Magic energy began swirling at her fingertips. Good news, I no longer need to make practice dummies for my magic experiments. Sylvia grabbed her arm in a panic. Violence is a crime. Victoria, then. The third maid, high ponytail, the peppy one, crouched down, stared at Victoria's legs, and gasped. Wait, look at her leg shape. Perfectly straight, flawless muscle definition. These are actually superior to Her Highness's legs even after years of royal posture correction. Victoria, who was 1 second away from committing triple homicide, suddenly paused. Her chin tilted up slightly. The tiniest smug smirk appeared. So you 3 aren't completely lacking in taste. OW. Did one of you just lick me, Sylvia? The 3 maids huddled together. Confirmed, not Her Highness. Completely different flavor. Flavor? They identified people by taste. Having completed their inspection protocol, all 3 maids curtsied in perfect sync and apologized. They explained they were searching for a red-haired girl who tends to be somewhat unpredictable in behavior. They were looking for Lilith Karn, the kingdom's second princess, same year as Victoria and Sylvia, and already a campus celebrity. Rumor says she mastered the prototype of Inferno Blast, one of the highest-tier fire spells, at just level 10. An absolute monster of a prodigy and the biggest threat in the upcoming placement exam. Victoria's eyes sharpened. She wasn't worried. She was excited. Fighting strong opponents was her thing. She grabbed Sylvia and marched off to practice. Meanwhile, the 3 maids watched them leave and sighed collectively. Their runaway princess was still missing. If she didn't come back by lights out, they'd have to report to that person, someone named Vivian, apparently another princess. And from their tone, that was clearly a fate they wanted to avoid. Now here's the part that concerns me. Someone snuck into the dungeon right when Victoria and Sylvia were leaving. A red-haired, chaotic princess who can cast near-max level fire magic at level 10. Heading into MY Dungeon, where I live, I had a feeling my peaceful cave life was about to get a lot more complicated. After Victoria and Sylvia left, I sat by the fire and took stock of my life. It was not going well. Is this some kind of garbage game? Since when does accepting 1 main quest trigger 50 side quests? Let me list my current problems. 1. Clear dungeon floor 1 before Act 1 ends, or die. 2. Convince the current saint to remove the holy glow from my situation before she gets replaced. 3. Find my suicidal maid Ellie within a 1-week deadline before she storms in here and throws me a funeral. 4. Figure out why I'm apparently actually blessed by a goddess I made up. So much for hiding in a cave until the credits roll. I opened my status panel to check for changes. Stats were the same, still basically a loser with a pretty face and cursed luck. But then I flipped to my skills page and nearly choked. Dark Magic Affinity. Level 10. 10. Not 1. Not 3. 10. For reference, Victoria, the literal hero chosen by the gods, doesn't even have level 10 affinity in any element. Sylvia, blessed by a goddess, also doesn't reach 10. And here's the truly insane part. Dark magic doesn't exist in this game. I played it 81 times. The magic system has earth, water, fire, wind, with some rare light and lightning variants. Dark magic only ever appeared as background lore text about an extinct religion. No character could use it. No skill tree. No spells. Nothing. But my panel now showed two brand new dark element skills, Dark Arm Guard and Dark Wave, just casually sitting there like they belonged. Does the goddess of night actually exist in this world? And she chose me? Why? What does she want? The question spiraled. This gift didn't feel reassuring. It felt like someone putting a target on my back that I couldn't see yet. Meow, I jumped out of my skin. A pitch-black cat with glowing green eyes was sitting on a rock next to me, tail swishing gently, just staring, like it had been there the whole time. A cat? How did it get down? Then I heard a massive splash from the dark river. Oh, come on. Is the drop rate really this high today? Something had fallen into the river. Again, in MY's section of river. The same river where I'd already fished out one drowning heroine today. Let me tell you what I found out was happening. Apparently, Princess Lilith Karn, the kingdom's second princess, genius prodigy, campus celebrity, the girl who learned a top tier fire spell at level 10, had gotten bored, disguised herself, dodged her 3 maids, and snuck into the dungeon to prove she was tough enough to handle it. She was strolling across a stone bridge in the shallow zone, feeling invincible, monologuing about how this isn't even scary, when tentacle from the river around her ankle, yoink, dragged straight into the water. Now here's the beautiful irony. She's a fire mage, the most powerful fire prodigy of her generation, pulled underwater into a dark, freezing river where fire magic is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Every spark she tried to summon got instantly snuffed by the current. Her lungs were burning, her vision was fading, and the great genius princess was about 30 seconds from becoming the dungeon's most embarrassing casualty. Am I really going to die here? And in such a pathetic way. At the very last second, just as the darkness was swallowing her completely, a warm hand shot through the freezing water and grabbed her wrist. That hand was mine, obviously, because apparently my new full-time job in this dungeon is not surviving or conquering floors or getting my divine chastity belt removed. No, my actual job is lifeguard of the underground river. How many girls is this river going to try to kill? Should I put up a sign? Caution, tentacle monsters. No swimming. Seriously. Management, Greg. I dragged the girl out of the river, dumped her on the rocks, confirmed she was breathing, and turned to leave. Standard procedure at this point. I'm basically running a one-man Coast Guard operation down here. She coughed up half the river and started to say thanks, then looked at my face and froze. Greg? Why is it you? Interesting. She recognized me, but I had zero clue who she was. Just some random first year based on her sleeve badge. Her face didn't match any character I remembered from the game. You know me? I asked. She caught herself quickly. Must have realized something, because she suddenly switched to a totally normal student voice. Oh, you're super famous among the freshmen. Everyone knows about you. Famous? You mean infamous? I didn't feel like chatting. I turned around and walked away. Job done. Girl alive. River, 0, Greg, 2, moving on. But apparently she was not okay with that. I heard wet boots slapping stone behind me. Hey, wait. She ran around and blocked my path. Had to look up at me since I'm about a head taller. Her soaked uniform was dripping everywhere. Greg, do you even know who you just saved? I'm the great and mighty. Hard stop. Almost blew her own cover on something. I blinked. Great and mighty? If the great and mighty daughter of the Callow merchant family. Lily Callow, smooth recovery. Not really. Merchant's daughter, huh? That reminded me of the 4th heroine, the actual richest girl in the kingdom. But this girl didn't match that character either. So, I kept walking. She scrambled after me. So, I need to repay you. I, Lily Callow, never owe anyone a favor. I stopped. Something about those words hit different. I turned around slowly. Wait, you want to repay me? For saving you? Yes, you're not going to. Blackmail me? Or accuse me of doing something inappropriate to you while you were unconscious? What? Who would do that to their rescuer? That you'd be surprised. She went quiet for a second, probably remembering some noble world horror stories. Then she said firmly, well, at least I wouldn't. You're actually a really good person. You know that. My approval rating for this random girl shot through the roof. After dealing with a world where every female character is hard-coded to despise me on sight, meeting someone with basic human decency felt like finding water in a desert. She looked confused, like she couldn't process why the guy who saved her was complimenting her. Then her stomach growled, loudly, in the silent cave. Maximum embarrassment echo. I was about to make dinner. I offered. Want to join? You can cook? She looked at me like I'd said I could fly. Fair reaction. In this world, nobles don't cook. Cooking is servant work. A duke's son knowing his way around a kitchen is like finding out a CEO knows how to change a tire. Technically possible, but deeply suspicious. How do you think I've survived down here for days? I started leading her toward camp. And that's when 3 low-level monsters jumped out of the shadows, teeth gleaming. Watch out, she screamed. I didn't even turn around. Just flicked my hand backward. 3 fireballs. 0 startup delay. 3 perfect headshots. The monsters dropped like burnt toast. One of them was cooked to a beautiful crisp, skin perfectly charred, meat probably tender inside. I picked it up by the leg, inspected it with a chef's eye, and nodded approvingly. Nice, the hide is already crispy. Saves me prep time. This one's gonna taste great. I turned back to see Lily standing there, mouth hanging open, brain visibly short-circuiting. Look, I get it. The version of Greg Sass she'd heard about was a talentless, arrogant idiot who got disowned and ran away crying. And now she's watching that same guy one-shot monsters without looking, then critique the sear on their corpse like a professional chef rating a steak. The math wasn't mateing for her. But honestly, this was just Tuesday for me. 5 days in the dungeon, and I've become a combat cook hybrid class. Warrior Chef Greg. I kill the ingredients and prepare the meal. Full farm-to-table experience. 5 stars on Underground Yelp. Back at camp, Lily sat by the fire drying her clothes while I went to the river to prep dinner. 5 days of dungeon survival had turned me into a master butcher. I carved up that monster with my decorative noble's short sword like a professional chef breaking down a chicken. The irony of using a status symbol weapon as a kitchen knife was not lost on me. While I was working, I did a quick scan of the cave. Earlier I'd seen a mysterious black cat appear out of nowhere, and now it was gone. Weird. But no time to worry about ghost cats when there's food to make. I brought the skewered meat back to the fire and got it cooking. Fat started dripping into the flames, filling the cave with an amazing smoky smell. Say what you want about dungeon life. My barbecue game was getting seriously good. Lily was poking around and found some gray hairs on the ground. Senior Greg, has someone else been here besides me? Yeah, couple of first years like you. Victoria and Sylvia. You've probably heard of them. I said it casually because why not? This girl was just some random merchant's daughter. A nice one, sure, but a total nobody in terms of the main plot. No harm in sharing. What I didn't notice was Lily nearly choking on air behind me. She recovered fast, though. But, aren't you and Victoria supposed to hate each other? That whole incident at the start of school was huge. Oh, that? We've made up, actually. I played it super casual, like the biggest school drama of the year was just a minor misunderstanding between friends. Honestly, I was kind of hoping she'd spread the word. My villain reputation was doing me 0 favors. Every minute I spent being the evil noble was a minute closer to some random death flag activating. Better to rebrand as the reformed guy and coast through peacefully while the heroines save the world. Lily seemed fascinated, like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. Every time she thought she had me figured out, something new contradicted everything. Her stomach growled again. Loud. The cave acoustics were not kind to her. She straightened up immediately, put on her best dignified rich girl posture, and pretended it didn't happen. She cleared her throat and tried to steer the conversation somewhere useful. So what do you think of Victoria and Sylvia? Honestly, both really pretty. But that's not what I meant. Deep breath from her. Second attempt. I mean, how do you think those two compare to Princess Lilith? I paused, turning the meat skewers thoughtfully. The fire reflected off my eyelashes. Very atmospheric. I could feel her getting weirdly tense waiting for my answer. Finally, I delivered my expert analysis at rapid-fire speed. Sylvia wins in the chest department. Victoria is absolutely lethal in the leg category, and Lilith is more of an all-rounder between those two areas. So overall, each has their own strengths. The cave went dead silent. Fire crackling. River flowing. Some distant monster groaning. All background noise ceased to exist in Lily's brain as my words bounced around her skull. Then, I wasn't asking about that. Her scream nearly brought the ceiling down. She jumped to her feet, face red as a tomato, equal parts embarrassment and fury. Look, She asked me to compare 3 girls. She didn't specify what criteria. I gave an honest, comprehensive, physically observable assessment. Is that not what comparison means? I thought I was being quite fair and balanced. Each girl received proper recognition in her strongest category. That's equality. But apparently, each has their own strengths, was the wrong answer when the strengths in question were body proportions. Also, and this is the part that would haunt me later, I had just casually described Princess Lilith's figure to Princess Lilith's face, while she was disguised, and she couldn't even get mad as the princess because she was pretending to be a merchant's daughter. The internal conflict happening behind those red eyes must have been spectacular. But in that moment, all I was thinking was, why is this nice random girl screaming at me? I even gave her a balanced review. What's wrong? You asked me how they compare. I meant their strength, their combat ability. Who asked about? About those things. Oh, she wanted a power ranking, not a beauty tier list. I won't lie, I was genuinely disappointed. See, in my mind, Lily was a classic background character, the type who exists in yuri games solely to gossip about the heroines and secretly crush on one of them. I had an entire conversation script ready in my head. Step 1. I give my physical assessment of the 3 girls. Done. Step 2. Lily eagerly agrees. Yes, that's exactly what I think too. Step 3. I lean in like a wise older brother. So, which one do you like? Step 4. She panics, waves her hands. And no one. I don't like anyone. Step 5. I reassure her. I won't tell. Just give me the first letter of her name. Step 6. She caves. Promise you won't say anything? It's beautiful. Wholesome. Peak background character bonding. But no. This girl wanted to talk about fighting. That's like watching a romance movie and asking about the cinematography budget. You're missing the point, Lily. Your job as a side character is to ship the main couples and blush, not to analyze combat matchups. But fine. She's a good person. I'll humor her. Strongest of the 3? Victoria, no question. Lily practically launched off the ground. Victoria? How is that possible? She caught herself, sat back down, and tried to sound calm. I mean, Princess Lilith mastered Inferno Blast at level 10. That's one of the highest tier fire spells. How could a commoner like Victoria beat that? The way her eyes lit up when she said, Princess Lilith, chest puffed out, chin raised, voice full of worship, told me everything. This girl was definitely a member of Lilith's fan club. One of those obsessive supporters who cheer from the shadows. They're harmless, though, never get in the way of the heroine's happiness. I don't mind them. But kid, I've cleared this game 81 times. I know things. Sure, Lilith is a genius. Learning a top-tier spell at level 10 is insane. She's got talent, royal resources, and the work ethic to match. On paper, she's untouchable. But Victoria grew up training under a legendary archmage whose teaching style was basically war crimes against children. We're talking icicles to the face as a wake-up call, fireballs chasing you during cardio, and lectures held inside monster nests. Victoria's combat instincts were forged in that absolute hellscape. She's been dancing on the edge of death since she was a kid. Lilith is a greenhouse prodigy. Victoria is a battlefield survivor. Big difference. In the original game, their placement match ends with Victoria using one fake-out move to bait Lilith into burning all her mana on Inferno Blast, dodging it, and winning. Then Lilith does her classic Sunder a Princess line. You beat me? Humph, interesting woman. You've caught this princess's attention, so I told Lily straight up, watch tomorrow's placement match. Victoria will use a feint to make Lilith waste her Inferno Blast, and then she'll win. You say that like you can see the future, Lily huffed, clearly unconvinced. Her pride wouldn't let her accept her beloved princess losing to a commoner. I didn't push it. She'd see for herself tomorrow. The meat was done. Golden brown, perfectly crispy outside, juicy inside. The fat had rendered beautifully, and the dungeon pepper seasoning gave it this amazing smoky kick. I was genuinely proud of my cooking evolution. Day 1 I was eating charcoal. Day 5 I was running a gourmet cave restaurant. I handed Lily a skewer. Try it. She was still pouting about my prediction. I could practically read her thoughts. This jerk rated my body, predicted the princess would lose, and now expects me to eat his food? It's probably terrible. Burned or tasteless or seasoned with cave fungus. But her hand moved faster than her pride. She snatched the skewer instantly. Zero hesitation. The body knows what the body wants. She stared at the meat for a few seconds, having a visible internal crisis. Eating it meant surrendering to the enemy. Not eating it meant starving. She hadn't had food since before sneaking into the dungeon. Finally, wearing an expression that said, "I'm only doing this to prove how bad it is," she took one tiny, skeptical bite. The crispy skin cracked between her teeth. Hot, tender, juice-bursting meat flooded her mouth. Layers of flavor, savory, smoky, perfectly salted. The texture was better than the specialty cuts served at royal palace banquets. Her eyes slowly went wide. Her chewing slowed to a reverent crawl. Every criticism she'd prepared evaporated like morning dew. Her brain had one single thought, ringing through her skull like a cathedral bell, that it's delicious. Victory. The dungeon chef remains undefeated. So Lily eventually left, and I later found out what happened when she got back to her dorm. I wasn't there obviously, but the picture painted itself pretty clearly. Apparently, she walked in at nearly 10 p.m., soaking wet, covered in dirt, and wearing a disguise, to three maids who were approximately 15 minutes away from a full-scale panic attack. These three, Renee, Rella, and Rena, had been watching the clock like it owed them money. When Lily strolled through the door, they tackled her with questions. She pulled off her disguise device, and boring brown hair turned into blazing red, plain features sharpened into drop-dead gorgeous, and the merchant's daughter was revealed to be exactly who I would later learn she actually was. But at the time, I had no idea. To me, she was just Lily, the nice random girl. She tried to play it cool with her maids. "Relax, I was just visiting a friend." All three maids instantly. "You're lying. You're definitely lying. Why would you tell such an obvious lie?" Apparently her tell is that her eyes drift upright, and she twirls her hair. Her maids have known her since childhood. She has zero poker face with these people. "I do have friends," she exploded, face going red. The short-haired one asked, "When you say friend, do you mean the kind we can see and physically touch?" "I graduated from imaginary friends ages ago." The ponytail one chimed in. "So it's evolved into a rubber friend now? Just remember to pace yourself." Why did it go there? "It's a real human friend." "Then tell us their name." "Absolutely not." The peppy maid noticed her blushing, the refusal to share, the complicated expression, and immediately went full gossip mode. Oh my. That reaction. The red face. The secrecy. How very interesting. "Tomorrow is the placement exam. I'm going to bed. Good night." She bolted into her room, slammed the door, and locked it. "But you haven't eaten dinner," the maid called through the door. "I already ate." The three maids looked at each other in shock. She already ate? She never carries money. She can't cook, which meant someone else cooked for her. She actually had a real friend who fed her. That friend was me. And I had absolutely no clue I'd just cooked a gourmet dungeon dinner for a princess. Meanwhile, behind that locked door, Lily, or rather, Lilith, was lying on her silk bed, staring at her starry ceiling, swinging her feet in the moonlight, thinking about me. Not in a romantic way, more like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube that kept changing colors. When she'd offered to repay me for saving her life, I just scratched my head and said, "Repayment? Nah, just keep supporting Princess Lilith. That's enough." She nearly broke character on the spot. I was telling Lily, the fan club member, to keep cheering for the princess, not knowing I was talking to the princess. I gave up a valuable favor for literally nothing. In her world, that's insane. Nobles always collect debts. Always. She also couldn't stop thinking about how relaxed she felt around me. No need to act royal. No carefully chosen words. She could yell at me, argue with me, be completely herself, like a normal person. And the food. She was still thinking about the food. "Next time I'll make him cook more," she muttered to herself. But then the cold realization hit her. I'd been nice to Lily Callow, the ordinary girl. If I found out she was actually the second princess, the sister of the woman I was once engaged to, everything would change. I'd become stiff, formal, distant, just like everyone else who learns who she really is. That thought stung her more than she expected. She shook it off, buried it under competitive fire. "He said I'd lose to Victoria because of a feint? I'm Lilith Karn. I'll show him tomorrow." Now back in my cave. The fire was burning warm. The loud girl was gone. Peace had returned. I ate my last skewer, tossed the stick into the flames, and looked around my empty home. I really needed furniture. At this rate, I was going to devolve into a caveman. But that could wait. Because there was something more important to address. I cleared my throat and spoke into the empty cave. Hey, goddess of night. Pause. You're still here, aren't you? Silence. Just fire crackling and water flowing. I waited, patient, watching every shadow. Then, meow lazy, soft, coming from the biggest shadow behind the campfire. The darkness rippled like water, and out walked a jet-black cat with glowing green eyes, moving with the elegance of something that was definitely, absolutely, 100% not just a cat. Time to have a little chat with my accidental deity. So, how did you figure out what I am? The cat asked. Except it didn't actually open its mouth. The voice just appeared directly inside my brain. Cool, ancient, echoey, with this weird mix of divine authority and sleepy cat energy. She licked her paw and tilted her head at me, looking less like a stray animal and more like a queen on a throne who found a mildly interesting bug. I shrugged. A goddess of darkness showing up as a black cat? Come on. That's the most classic setup in every fantasy story ever written. You might as well have been wearing a name tag. Setup? What are you talking about? Long story. Point is, normal cats don't casually hang out in monster-infested dungeons, and you appeared right when I mysteriously got a bunch of dark magic skills. Didn't take a genius. How casual of you, she said, tail flicking. Knowing I am a goddess, should you not show more respect? I gave her the middle finger. Can't respect you even a little bit. My tone was flat. I'm not some cat lover with a soft spot for anything with whiskers. And honestly, I wanted nothing to do with beings like you. My life is already a disaster. I just want to survive quietly. I don't want to get dragged into some epic destiny script. I looked her dead in those creepy green eyes. So can you please just leave me alone from now on? Reject a goddess? You truly are. An unusual one. Was that a laugh? Hard to tell with telepathic cat voices. But unfortunately, she continued, I have already placed my mark upon you. Our fates are bound. This cannot be undone. Hey. Now I was mad. Did I agree to this? Did I not? Did I sign anything? No. You just slapped a blessing on me without permission. That's like a subscription service that auto-enrolls you and hides the cancel button. You're a scam artist. You should be reported to Consumer Protection. Consumer Protection? People who do refund-only schemes would eat you alive. She tilted her head, clearly lost on the modern vocabulary, but she could definitely read my energy. Maximum annoyance. Your disgust is somewhat hurtful, she said, still calm. Do you know how many beings throughout history would have sacrificed everything? Their lives, their souls, their eternity, for even a fraction of my attention. Good for them. I'm not them. I sat cross-legged, chin on my hand, radiating worry. I don't want to be some pawn for a weird goddess, sent on life-threatening missions I didn't sign up for. I said the word pawn extra hard. Pawn? She sounded amused. She hopped onto a taller rock and looked down at me, green eyes glowing. This is hardly pawn treatment, she paused. If you were merely a disposable piece, you would not have received such generous gifts. Her gaze drifted meaningfully over my body. She was talking about the level 10 dark magic affinity. She had a point, annoyingly. Even Sylvia, who's blessed by the goddess of light, only reaches level 8 affinity in the game. Level 10 doesn't actually exist for any playable character. Its theoretical maximum, mentioned in lore documents, never achieved by anyone. If she just wanted a throwaway tool, she wouldn't have invested this heavily. This was more like venture capital, or a hostage situation with benefits. Furthermore, she continued, voice growing more serious. When I said our fates are bound, that was not a metaphor or a threat. She jumped down silently, landed in front of me, and looked up with those bottomless green eyes. If you die, I will also perish. Excuse me, we share the same divine core. Excuse me. Therefore, strictly speaking, her tail curled elegantly around her paw. You are now also a deity. A what? I heard, divine core, and my brain auto-corrected it to knife and shield, because nothing she was saying was making any sense anymore. Let me get this straight. I went from expendable villain with 1,386 death scenes to guy hiding in a cave eating rabbit to fake messenger of a made-up goddess to actual deity sharing a soul with said goddess in the span of one day. I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be a god. Being a god means responsibility. It means enemies. It means plot relevance. I just wanted to grill meat in my cave until the credits rolled. But no. The universe looked at the guy with the most death flags in gaming history and said, you know what he needs? Divine stakes. If I die, she dies. If she dies, presumably I also die. We're basically a two-person suicide pact I never agreed to. This cat has ruined my retirement plan. I sat there blinking at a cat who just told me I'm a god. I just became a god? Just like that? Every word crawled out of my mouth like it was paying rent. My brain had blue-screened and was running emergency recovery. This can't be right. Where's the paperwork? Where's the divine training montage? Where's the epic trial of worthiness? A cat sat on a rock and went, you're a god now. And that's it? Is the heaven HR department that understaffed? My mind immediately spiraled. Am I secretly a demigod by blood? Like that bald, angry guy with the chain weapons? Do I have some war god's DNA running through my veins? Is that why this happened so easily? Oh no. Does this mean I have to go on a god-killing rampage now? Start with minor gods, work my way up, eventually fight the king of heaven on top of some mountain? No, absolutely not. I just want to grill meat in my cave. Violence is bad for my health. And god-slaying careers have a horrifying mortality rate. You literally can't avoid dying at least twice. The cat looked very pleased with my meltdown. Her eyes curved into little crescent moons. Indeed, though you are merely a demigod, with feeble divine power, incomplete authority, and the lowest possible rank, your essence has, in truth, transcended mortality. Cool. So I'm the worst god. The god equivalent of an unpaid intern. Thanks for the pep talk. Okay, let me process this. I made a timeout gesture. Question 1. You said if you die, I die? If I die, you die? We're sharing one life? Correct. Our fates are intertwined, our lives bound by the same contract. I slapped both hands over my face and let out a wail of pure anguish. So you're telling me that I, a handsome, brilliant, promising young man, am now in a life-sharing pact with a cat? What kind of punishment is this? Is God pranking God? Her tail twitched with annoyance. Watch your words, mortal. Oh, demigod now. You truly are promising now, more than you realize. And I repeat, I am not an ordinary cat. I am a genuine goddess. My name is Nightmare. The name echoed through the cave with supernatural weight. Shut up. I peeked through my fingers and glared at her. You call yourself a goddess? You can't even provide basic visual fan service. You're a cat. Where are the curves? Where's the flowing hair? Where's the smoldering gaze? Transform into a gorgeous tall woman with an incredible figure, and then we'll talk about goddess status. Oh my. Nightmare's eyes sparkled with amusement instead of anger. You don't hide your crude desires at all, do you? Honestly, I don't dislike that quality. Compared to those fake pious worshippers with hidden agendas, you're refreshingly real. Then her voice softened. But unfortunately, I have been disconnected from belief systems for too long. My divine power has withered. Maintaining even this cat form is already pushing my limits. Transforming into a high-energy consumption form is currently impossible. Of course it is. I dropped my hands. Classic power-depleted goddess setup. Should have known. She was an ancient goddess whose religion died out centuries ago. No worshippers means no power. The fact she could even manifest as a cat and talk to me was already a miracle. Expecting her to go full divine bombshell mode was like expecting a phone at 1% battery to run a video game. I sighed and moved on. Question 2. We share one divine core. So what am I exactly? Dark Night Boy God? Apprentice Shadow Deity? Divine business partner? Please tell me it's not Dark Knight Lady Boy. It is merely a title, no need to fuss. Traditionally, a being bound deeply to a divine core while retaining independent will and form is called a godman. A godman? You're the godman. Your whole family are godmen. I rejected this title with every fiber of my being. It sounded like an insult in every language I knew. Nightmare tilted her head. You dislike it? Very well, titles can change, she thought for a moment. Then I shall grant you one of my own divine names. From this moment forward, I permit you to call yourself the King of Night. Okay, that one's actually pretty cool. I'll take it. I truly cannot understand why you humans care so much about meaningless labels. And whose fault is it that meaningless labels are the only joy I have left? She did that thing cats do where they lick their paw and pretend they can't hear you. I took a deep breath. Enough warm-up. All right, appetizers are over. Time for the main course. Question 3. The one that actually matters. I locked eyes with those glowing green orbs and asked the question that had been eating me alive. You're a goddess. Even a broke, powerless one. You could have bonded with a dying hero, a desperate sage, a vengeful prince, any of those classic candidates. So why me? Nightmare the cat goddess started circling me like I was a museum exhibit. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, just staring with those creepy green eyes. Then she stopped and said, "Because you are special, Greg Sass. Special. Great. Special how? Specially unlucky? Specially good at hiding? Specially likely to die in creative ways. I can sense a powerful potential within you. The ability to conquer all 5 great dungeons. 5 great dungeons." Now that term I recognized. In the game, these are the ultimate hardcore in-game content that nobody in their right mind actually completed. The Academy Dungeon, my current lovely home. The Duchy Dungeon, buried under frozen glaciers up north. The Empire Dungeon, hidden deep beneath the Imperial capital. The Ocean Dungeon, at the bottom of the deepest trench in the sea. The Demon Realm Dungeon, smack in the middle of demon territory. Each one is massive, brutally difficult, and scales up in insanity. In 81 playthroughs, I never saw a single complete guide for even one of these dungeons on the game forums. Players would poke around the first few floors, grab some rare loot, and leave. Because why would you grind through a nightmarish death dungeon when you could be flirting with Itsundra Princess or triggering the Ice Queen Saint's secret romance event? Priorities, people. What does my dungeon potential have to do with you? I asked. And why would I want to clear those places? Most people get chosen by goddesses because they can save the world. I got chosen because I'm good at being a rat in underground holes. Real flattering. These 5 dungeons are not natural formations, Nightmare said, gazing into the darkness. They are seals. And tombs. Tombs? For what? Ancient monsters? Fallen heroes? Legendary treasure? She shook her head at all my guesses. They imprison beings of extreme danger. Entities whose nature, form, and purpose are fundamentally alien to this world. If they fully awaken and break free, this world will face true annihilation, world destruction. I perked up. Oh, you mean the Demon King? Don't worry about that. The heroines handle him in the main story. It's fine. Nightmare stared at me. Clear confusion in those green eyes. And something that said, "What on earth are you talking about?" Demon King, she repeated. What? Stray mud is that? My turn to be confused. Wait, the thing you're worried about isn't the big evil guy with the demon army who wants to conquer humanity. Of course not. Her voice dripped with disdain. This Demon King of yours doesn't even register in my remaining memories. In the era I was active, an older, far more dangerous age, such a being wouldn't even make the rankings. What I speak of are the entities sealed within these 5 dungeons, the outer gods. Outer gods. I chewed on those words. In 81 complete playthroughs, every dialogue, every lore fragment, every hidden text, every background document, the phrase, outer gods, appeared exactly 0 times. This was completely new, completely outside my game knowledge. A setting that shouldn't exist. Never heard of them. Are you sure you're not just old and confused? Or making stuff up to trick me into risking my life? She sounded genuinely sad. So after all these ages of slumber and forgetting, not a single living being even remembers the name of the outer gods anymore. And I suppose no one actively explores or tries to clear these dungeons that serve as their prisons, either. Obviously not. Nobody wants to go deeper than they have to. I wouldn't be here myself if I wasn't dodging death flags. Nightmare sighed. Then she hit me with the most unhinged analogy I've ever heard from a divine being. How strange. I have observed that you humans, when confronted with the unknown territory beneath a beautiful female's skirt, display astonishing courage, wisdom, and determination, charging forward fearlessly, wave after wave. Yet when faced with dungeons that are equally unknown but potentially hold the key to your world's survival, you show only fear and retreat. Why is that? How did you connect those 2 things? She blinked innocently. As if to say, was I wrong? I rubbed my forehead. This goddess's brain worked on a completely different operating system. I threw more wood on the fire and got serious. Look, if you picked me hoping I'd go clear all 5 dungeons for you, you picked wrong. I don't volunteer for suicide missions. My rule is simple. I'll clear a dungeon if it's the only way to survive. I will not go looking for extra dungeons to die in. Everything she told me about outer gods was completely unverifiable. None of it existed in the original game. And as long as the heroines follow the main storyline and beat the Demon King, the world gets saved anyway, right? Even if outer gods are real and do wake up someday when, 100 years from now, 1,000, by then I'll be dust. World ending after I'm dead? Not my problem. I said what I said. Nightmare took my rejection like a champ. No guilt trip, no dramatic speech, no, but the world needs you, nonsense. She just sat there, calm as ever, and said, "This was merely a gamble on my part. I have no right and no desire to force your choices. If the worst day does come, we'll walk to the end together. At least the road to the afterlife won't be lonely." Then she hopped down, curled up by the fire, tucked her head into her paws, and started purring within 5 seconds. 5 seconds. We were just discussing the apocalypse, and she fell asleep like a house cat after a big meal. Honestly, I kind of respected it. She gave me the information, stated her case, accepted my answer, and went to sleep. No manipulation. No emotional blackmail. No, chosen one, guilt complex. After every god story I've ever seen where the deity drags the hero kicking and screaming into destiny, getting a goddess who says, "Your call, and if we both die, at least we'll have company," was refreshing. The piece lasted exactly 4 seconds before I smacked my own forehead. Ellie, the maid. The 1-week deadline. I'd been so busy debating cosmic theology with a cat that I completely forgot about the woman who will storm this dungeon and hold my funeral while I'm still alive. My plan was to sneak to the surface tonight under cover of darkness, find her, and calm her down. But I'd burned half the night chatting with Nightmare. It was probably past midnight already. Too late, too risky. Tomorrow night then. Tomorrow was the class placement exam. The campus would be crawling with people during the day. I'd have to wait for nightfall again. I just had to pray Ellie had enough patience to wait one more day. She didn't strike me as the patient type. At all. Nothing I could do about it now. I lay down on my school jacket, my one and only mattress, on the cold stone floor. Rocks jabbing my back. Damp chill seeping through. Absolute luxury. I stared at the dark ceiling and made myself a promise. Once this chaos settles down, I am upgrading this cave. Sleeping on stone every night would destroy even a steel spine. My thoughts drifted to tomorrow. The placement exam. A critical story event. Victoria would shine. Sylvia would establish herself. Lilith would challenge Victoria and lose to a single feint, launching her character arc. Please let everything go according to the script, I prayed silently. My entire survival plan depended on that gray-haired protagonist clearing the game properly. No detours. No surprises. Just follow the plot. I eventually fell asleep. Now, here's what I found out was happening across campus that same morning. Lilith woke up in her silk princess bed with my voice echoing in her head. Specifically, the part where I told Lily that her repayment should just be, keep supporting. Princess Lilith. She made a noise like a dying animal, yanked the blanket over her head, and rolled back and forth across her enormous bed like a silk cocoon. Having a crisis. Why did I dream about that guy? After several rolls, she exploded out of the covers, sitting up with her red hair going in 17 directions. Even looking like a beautiful disaster, she was apparently still stunning. Not that I was there to see it. Then her brain latched onto a brilliant theory. What if none of yesterday actually happened? She started building the case. He's Greg Sass. The arrogant, stupid, disowned loser. There's no way he was actually interesting. Or saved my life. Or said those things. Or cooked that amazing food. It was obviously a stress dream. Yes, I never left my room yesterday. None of it was real. She was so relieved by this conclusion. Everything made sense again. The confusing feelings? Dream. The good food? Dream. The guy who treated her like a normal person? Dream. Then her maid Rella walked in with a wash basin, smiled pleasantly, and said, "Good morning, Your Highness. Even if you're excited about your new friend, you shouldn't neglect basic grooming. Looking like this in the morning might make someone think less of you." Friend. The word hit Lilith like a lightning bolt. If the maids remember her talking about a friend last night, then last night happened. Which means the dungeon happened. Which means I happened. It wasn't a dream. Everything was real. I can only imagine the look on her face. Beautiful princess, bird's nest hair, silk pajamas, sitting bolt upright in bed. realizing that the confusing boy who made her laugh, rescued her life, and cooked her the best meal she'd ever eaten was not, in fact, a figment of her imagination. Welcome to reality, Your Highness. Population, me, unfortunately. While I was sleeping on a rock floor using a dirty jacket as a mattress, the two girls who were about to fight each other were both apparently thinking about me, and not in a flattering way. First, Lilith. Her maid casually mentioned the word, friend, and Lilith's entire. It was all a dream. Fantasy collapsed like a house of cards. Her face went redder than her hair. She grabbed a silk cloth and slapped it over her face. He dares look down on me, she huffed from behind the cloth. Then, and I cannot stress enough that I was told this later, she proceeded to wash her face more carefully than usual, put on moisturizer with extra attention, changed into a completely fresh outfit, had her hair done up with cute little fire-themed hair clips. This is for the exam. Because I'm a princess. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Sure. Absolutely. That's why you're spending an extra 20 minutes on grooming the morning after someone told you that you'd lose. Totally exam-related. She marched out of her dorm radiating competitive fire. Her entire motivation for the placement exam had shifted. It was no longer about proving she's the best. It was about proving me wrong. I'll win, then go back to the dungeon and shove my victory in his stupid face. She was literally planning a post-exam trip to my cave just to gloat. I had unknowingly become a princess's primary source of motivation. Through insults. Meanwhile, on the other side of campus, Victoria and Sylvia were walking toward the arena. Sylvia was worried. Your first opponent is Princess Lilith. She can already use Inferno Blast at our level. Please be careful. Victoria stopped, turned, patted Sylvia's pink hair, and said with rock-solid confidence, relax. I absolutely cannot lose to her. No fear. No hesitation. This girl grew up training under a psychopath mage who used fireballs as alarm clocks and held classes inside monster nests. Some princess with a fancy spell wasn't going to shake her. But here's the thing. Victoria had her own secret motivation. She reached into her pocket and squeezed the reflect gem. My gem. The one I gave her. She wasn't just fighting for better class placement anymore. She was fighting because she didn't want a certain annoying guy in a cave to have bragging rights. Even though she knew I couldn't see the exam from underground, the thought of me sitting there with my smug little grin, imagining her losing, made her furious. So let me recap. Lilith, I'll win and then rub it in Greg's face. Victoria, I'll win so Greg can't laugh at me. Both of them were marching into battle with maximum determination, and in both cases, the fuel behind that determination was me. A guy sleeping on rocks in a cave. Who wasn't even watching? I had somehow become the invisible motivational coach for both sides of this fight. No matter who won, it would be partially my fault. And the beautiful irony? I already knew exactly how this match would end. Victoria wins with a feint. Lilith gets her pride shattered and starts her character arc. It's scripted. It's canon. My prediction wasn't a guess. It was a spoiler. One of them was about to be very smug. The other was about to storm into my dungeon demanding answers. Either way, I was going to have a visitor. I was dead asleep on my rock mattress when I sneezed so hard that Nightmare jumped off my chest and ran to the other side of the campfire in disgust. Someone was talking about me. Multiple someones, apparently. Here's what was happening at the surface while I was unconscious. Victoria and Sylvia arrived at the exam arena, a massive open-air coliseum packed with students, teachers, and noble VIP spectators. The moment Victoria walked in, the trash talk started. Oh look, the commoners here. So late, too. Peasants really have no sense of etiquette. This is a prestigious academy, not a pig farm. Then some slick-back noble boy turned up his volume on purpose. You know, say what you want about Greg Sass, but at least he had the right idea, trying to put commoners in their place. Mud crawlers like her shouldn't be allowed to. Victoria stopped walking. Her eyes went sub-zero. Sylvia grabbed her arm immediately. Don't. That's exactly what they want. If you hit them now, they'll use it to disqualify you. Victoria stood there, chest heaving, wrestling her rage back into its cage. After a few seconds, she opened her eyes, straightened her collar, and turned toward those smirking nobles with perfect composure. And then she absolutely destroyed them with words. Funny, she said, voice clear and cutting. That terrible Greg Sass you're all mocking? At least when he had something nasty to say, he said it to my face. dead silence spreading across the arena. Unlike certain people who only dare whisper insults from behind a crowd, like rats squeaking in a gutter, she let that sink in, then delivered the kill shot. So in my book, he's better than all of you. Which means, you're not even as good as Greg Sass. That was the sneeze. I felt that one from underground. The woman who killed me the most times in the original game just publicly used my name as the floor for human decency. "You're worse than Greg Sass" is now an official insult at this academy. I've become the minimum standard. The bar is literally on the ground, and they failed to clear it. I don't know how to feel about this. Honored? Insulted? Both. The noble kids went from red to white to green. One tried to clap back. He's not even a noble anymore. He got disowned. "How dare you compare us to that?" "She's right." A new voice cut through like a blade. The crowd parted. Lilith walked in like the sun decided to take human form. Red hair gleaming, uniform perfectly pressed. The whole, "I definitely spent extra time getting ready this morning and will deny it forever," look in full effect. She glanced at the noble boys with the kind of casual dismissal you'd give a fly. They immediately shut up and stared at their shoes. Nobody talks back to a princess. Then she said, loud enough for everyone, "Greg Sass is indeed more interesting than people who only know how to gossip behind others' backs." The princess. Defending him, why name? In public. The same princess who supposedly hates me because I almost married her sister. Victoria was visibly confused. Why would Lilith defend the guy everyone hates? Something didn't add up. But Lilith wasn't there for diplomacy. She walked straight up to Victoria, looked her in the eye, stuck out her hand, and hit her with the most direct declaration of war I've ever heard. "You're Victoria? I've heard about you. Don't disappoint me in our match." No small talk. No pleasantries. Pure competitive energy. Classic Lilith. Victoria paused for 1 second, then smiled. That quiet, dangerous smile, and grabbed her hand. That should be my line. 2 hands. 2 rivals. Electricity practically visible between them. Sylvia stood off to the side, clutching her skirt, sensing that the arena was about to see something unforgettable. And somewhere deep underground, a golden-haired idiot sneezed again, completely unaware that he had somehow become the bonding topic for both combatants. My legacy at this academy, the universal unit of measurement for human worthlessness, and the only thing 2 rival prodigies agree on, that I'm interesting. I'll take it. I was snoring in my cave for all of this, but from what I gathered afterward, the placement exam was exactly the kind of spectacle you'd expect from a magic school full of competitive teenagers. The whole thing was run by Professor Grace Quinn, a no-nonsense woman in her 30s with glasses, a razor-sharp gaze, and exactly 0 interest in anyone's family name. In her arena, your bloodline means nothing. Only results talk. My kind of teacher, honestly. If she'd been in charge when original Greg was pulling his stunts, he would have been expelled in 5 minutes. Silence. The exam begins now. That's it. No motivational speech. No warm-up. Just fight. The rules were simple. One-on-one matches, scored not just on winning, but on magic control, tactics, creativity, and mental toughness. You could lose the fight and still make A class if you showed enough skill. You could win ugly and get dumped in D class. No hiding. No sandbagging. Go all out or get sorted to the bottom. First match was some Earl's daughter with rare wood element magic. She summoned vines, locked down her opponent's legs, and held a razor leaf at the girl's throat in under a minute. Clean. Brutal. A class, Quinn announced without blinking. Second match was less impressive. 2 students with basic fire and water spells flailing at each other like toddlers having a splash fight. Fire mist. Water mist. Eventually one of them tripped the other off the stage with a wonky shockwave. Winner, C class. Loser, D class. Quinn's delivery was colder than my dungeon floor. Several more matches went by with mixed results. Then came the one that got people buzzing. Match 6, Sylvia Lorraine versus Angela White. Sylvia walked up to the arena looking like a baby deer at a job interview. Nervous, fidgety, clearly uncomfortable being the center of attention. Everyone knew one thing about her. She had connections to the Church of Light, which meant she might have light element magic. The rare, scary kind. Her opponent Angela was a wind mage from a Viscount family, armed with a proper magic staff embedded with a split gem. She took one look at nervous little Sylvia and thought, easy win. Begin. Angela went nuclear immediately. Full power wind blade, split into two by her gem, flying at Sylvia in a pincer attack from above and below. No mercy, no warm-up. Sylvia stumbled backward half a step. Didn't dodge. Didn't block. Angela thought, I won, and almost smiled. Boom. A wall of pure white holy light materialized out of thin air in front of Sylvia. Solid as a mountain. Sacred runes flowing across its surface. Both wind blades smashed into it and dissolved like they'd hit a concrete wall. The arena erupted. It's real light magic. An instant cast defense. Her magic control is insane. Angela's smile died. Her worst fear confirmed. She gritted her teeth and gambled everything on one last shot. Hurricane Pierce, the strongest single-point penetration spell in basic wind magic. Every drop of mana she had, compressed into one armor-piercing drill of wind aimed at the center of that light wall. The impact screamed like metal on metal. The light wall shuddered, flickered, runes spinning wildly. Sylvia's forehead glistened with sweat. 3 seconds. 5. 10. The wall held. The wind drill faded to nothing. Angela collapsed to one knee, completely drained, pale and gasping. She'd given everything she had, and the wall was still standing. Victor, Sylvia Lorraine. Rating: A class. Sylvia bowed shyly, then literally scurried off the stage like a startled rabbit and grabbed Victoria's arm. I did it. She was panting and sweaty but grinning. Victoria gave her a thumbs up. Nice work. Then Sylvia made a little prayer gesture with her hands. Your turn now? Be careful. Victoria looked across the arena. The buzz from Sylvia's match hadn't even died down yet, but nobody cared anymore. Because everyone knew what was coming next. Professor Quinn's voice rang out, and for the first time, even SHE sounded like she was looking forward to this. Match 7. Victoria Cecil versus Lilith Karn. The entire arena held its breath. The match I predicted from my cave. The one Lilith swore she'd win to prove me wrong. The one Victoria swore she'd win so I couldn't smirk about it. Both of them fueled by spite toward the same sleeping guy underground. Showtime. Still asleep. Still snoring. Still missing the greatest fight of the school year that I literally predicted the outcome of. But let me tell you what happened, because it was apparently incredible. When Victoria and Lilith walked onto that stage, the entire arena went silent like someone hit the mute button. Every single eyeball in the building locked onto those two girls. On one side, Victoria Cecil, the commoner nobody with mysteriously balanced affinity in all 4 base elements: earth, water, fire, wind. The girl who humiliated the original Greg during orientation. No money, no family name, no resources. Just raw talent and the survival instincts of someone who grew up dodging fireballs from a lunatic teacher. On the other side, Lilith Karn, second princess, fire prodigy, learned a top-tier spell at age 10. Backed by the entire Royal Magic Council. The walking natural disaster. The girl who extra carefully did her hair this morning for reasons she will never admit. Before the match started, they traded words on the platform like rival anime protagonists. Victoria, I don't know why you stood up for me earlier, but I won't hold back. Lilith, chin raised, smirking. Who stood up for you? I just said what I felt. And I don't need you to hold back. Professor Quinn announced the start, and Victoria moved first. Smart move. She knew Lilith was a fire specialist, so she opened with water magic. 5 precision water arrows in a fan formation, screaming toward Lilith at high speed. Lilith didn't even flinch. She smiled. A chain made of pure compressed fire materialized from her fingertips, and she whipped it in a single wide arc. Every water arrow vaporized on contact. Steam exploded everywhere. Victoria used the steam cloud as cover, sidestepping to dodge the chain's follow-through. The tip singed her uniform sleeve. Close call. Nice reflexes, Lilith complimented. Then, while Victoria was still regaining her balance, Lilith raised her other hand. No warning. No chanting. No magic staff. Just raw palm-to-air casting. Over 20 compressed fire arrows materialized in the air behind her. Every single one locked onto Victoria like heat-seeking missiles. Then they launched. All at once. A wall of flame covering every possible escape route. Victoria's eyes went wide for a real second. She'd expected spoiled nobles who throw sloppy fireballs. This was not that. This was a precision carpet bombing from someone who'd been training since childhood. No room to dodge. Victoria made a split-second call, slammed both palms on the ground. Earth wall, A massive wall of stone erupted from the arena floor, tall as her body, wide enough to fully shield her. 20-plus fire arrows detonated against it in rapid succession. Boom, 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 boom. Fire and rock fragments spraying everywhere. Heat waves blasting outward so hard that the audience felt their faces getting hot. When the barrage stopped, the wall was scorched, cratered, and barely standing. But standing. Victoria stepped out from behind it. Dusty hair, slightly heavy breathing, but eyes still sharp as knives. She waved her hand and let the damaged wall crumble back into the earth. Across the stage, Lilith was still smiling. But I was told that behind those ruby eyes, something had changed. For the first time, she was taking this seriously. Really seriously. Because she was starting to believe what I told her. If I get careless, I might actually lose to this person. And her next thought, predictably, I absolutely cannot let that annoying caveman be right about me. So both fighters were now at maximum intensity. Victoria fighting to prove she belonged. Lilith fighting to prove a sleeping guy in a hole wrong. This is what my existence has become. I am not a participant in this world. I am a motivational threat. The mere possibility of my smug face is driving two prodigies to fight harder than they've ever fought. I should start a coaching business. I was asleep for this. The single most dramatic moment of the entire first act, and I was drooling on a rock next to a cat goddess. But let me reconstruct the masterpiece I missed. First, some backstory on Victoria that I already knew from the game, but hits different when you realize these are real people now. She wasn't always the ice-cold warrior queen. She was a little girl in a border village who sat on her mom's lap listening to hero stories, punching the air saying, "I'm gonna be a hero. I'll fight bad guys and open every treasure chest." Her dad would joke about weather her, but was tough enough for the hero life. Normal, happy, simple. Then the demons came. Blood, fire, screaming. Her dad grabbed an axe and stood at the door like a mountain and got swallowed by the dark in seconds. Her mom shoved her into an underground tunnel with a bone-crushing hug and tears streaming. "Run. Don't look back." Live, little Sylvia dragged a kicking, screaming, crying Victoria through that tunnel while their village burned behind them. That night killed the little girl and forged the weapon. So when Victoria stood on that arena stage looking at Lilith's blazing fire magic, she wasn't thinking about class rankings. She was thinking about everyone she'd lost, everything she'd sworn, and the mountain she still had to climb. Now, the fight. Victoria's plan was brilliant. She knew Lilith's trump card was Inferno Blast, devastating but costs all her mana. One shot, then she's empty. So Victoria needed to bait it out, dodge it, and win against a drained opponent. She dragged the fight into a war of attrition. Wind blades, water shots, earth spikes, cycling through three elements, never committing too hard, just grinding Lilith down. No flashy moves, just relentless, calculated pressure. Lilith was getting frustrated. She expected to dominate. Instead, she was stuck in a stalemate against someone who fought like wet leather. You could scorch it, but never burn through it. Her pride was screaming at her. "You're Lilith Karn. You don't do ties." Then, Victoria slipped. Her foot caught a broken stone tile, and she stumbled backward, completely off balance. Wide open. Defenseless. The perfect opening. Lilith's instincts ignited. Every drop of fire mana surged to her palm. The air warped from heat. A white-hot ball of compressed destruction materialized. Inferno Blast, the nuclear option. The audience gasped. Teacher sat up straight. She was 1 millisecond from launching it when my face appeared in her head. My stupid, smirking, campfire-lit face sang, "Victoria will use a fake-out to bait your Inferno Blast." Lilith froze. Her brain split in half. One side screaming, "This is real." She genuinely slipped. "Fire now." The other side whispering, "But what if that cave idiot was right?" Then she remembered my other words. "The ones by the fire. Just keep supporting Princess Lilith," said with that annoying casual warmth. She cursed me internally. Then she made the most insane decision possible. She believed me. Instead of aiming Inferno Blast at Victoria's current position, she thought, if this is a fake-out, where would she dodge to? Her eyes locked onto a crater behind Victoria, the obvious escape route. Roll into the hole, seal it with earth magic, tank the blast, then counterattack. So Lilith aimed Inferno Blast at the crater instead. Victoria, thinking her trap worked perfectly, dove into the hole, sealed the top with earth magic, and thought, "I win." Then it got hotter. Way too hot. She poked a hole to peek outside. A white-hot sun of pure annihilation was flying directly at her face. How did she know? I demand a card check. Boom. My prediction was wrong. For the first time in 81 playthroughs worth of knowledge, the script had changed. Because I opened my big mouth and told Lilith what would happen, she was able to counter Victoria's counter. I changed the timeline. By trying to show off my future knowledge to impress a girl I thought was a random nobody, I accidentally gave the actual opponent classified intel on Victoria's strategy. This was entirely my fault, and I was asleep. I slept through the entire exam. Woke up, and it was already nighttime. Information overload from the whole. You're a demigod now. Conversation knocked me out for like 14 hours. First thing I noticed, the black cat was gone. Was last night a dream? My shadow rippled. A black cat crawled out of it. I told you, I'm not a black cat. I'm the goddess of night. Show some respect. Respect? You crawled into my shadow without permission. That's trespassing. Could you let me stay in your shadow going forward? I don't want to sleep on cold rocks with you. You know? If we're a fate-bound duo, then you suffer with me. That's how bonds are built. She ignored me and slipped back into my shadow. Heck am I? Get out here. We promised to be each other's only angels, remember? My shadow twitched. I have absolutely no memory of that. But if you must label our relationship, I'd prefer you call me Master. Hakimi. Hakimi. That I don't know what that means, but I feel insulted. You should feel insulted. From now on your name is Hakimi. Wait, stop. I was joking. Please stop turning my shadow into a catgirl shape. My stomach is literally cramping. If I throw up, it's bad for both of us. My shadow slowly returned to normal. Then Nightmare's voice went quiet and serious in my head. Human. We met for the first time yesterday, correct? Weird question. Obviously. If I'd met you earlier, I'd have already died of annoyance. I see. Is that so? Her voice trailed off into silence. Strange. But I didn't have time to think about it. Tonight was Operation Stop My Maid from Committing Terrorism. I scarfed down some jerky I'd been curing, then headed for the dungeon exit. The plan was simple. Sneak out under cover of night. Avoid every location where original Greg had a death CG. Find Ellie. Convince her I'm alive. And get back before sunrise. Nighttime was my safest window. Curfew meant almost no students wandering around, and most story events triggered during daytime. The campus was dark, quiet, just a few patrol lights and the occasional distant silhouette of a night shift teacher. I checked myself for anything that might make noise, took a deep breath, and shot out of the dungeon entrance like an arrow, heading for a hedge near the garden that would give me cover. Silent steps. Perfect execution. Everything going according to plan. KYA. Someone burst out from behind a statue at the exact same moment. We collided at full speed. My heart stopped. Caught already? Then the faint lamplight hit her face. Small oval face, neat brown hair, clear chestnut eyes wincing in pain. Lily Callow. My brain short-circuited. Why was this girl here? At night? Near the dungeon entrance? In dark sneaking clothes with her hair tied back? I looked at her. Looked at the dungeon path behind me. Looked at her outfit. Looked back at her face. Oh no. Was this girl trying to sneak into the dungeon? At night? Alone? I told her yesterday, it's dangerous. Don't come back here. And she shows up 12 hours later in full stealth gear? What is wrong with the side characters in this world? When did background NPCs become this hardcore? This girl is supposed to be a fan club member who gossips about the heroines. Why is she speedrunning herself into a death dungeon at midnight like she's training for special forces? The grind culture in this world is out of control. So there I was, on a covert nighttime mission to prevent my maid from performing domestic terrorism, and I literally ran face first into Lily Callow. We both went down. She landed on her, but on the cold stone. I stumbled backward. Two idiots sneaking around campus at midnight, colliding like bumper cars. I recognized her immediately. Lily? Why are you here at this hour? Because I wanted to. Full stop. Her mouth clamped shut. Her eyes went wide. Her face started changing colors. I could practically see her brain screaming. I can't say. I came to see you. That sounds like a confession. She sat there on the ground, mouth opening and closing like a fish, desperately searching for any excuse that wasn't the truth. What possible reason could a normal student have for being near the dungeon entrance at midnight in stealth clothes? Lucky for her, I already had my own theory. The way she froze up, the embarrassment, The inability to explain herself. I'd seen this exact behavior 1,000 times in my previous life. Gym rats caught doing secret midnight workouts. Library nerds spotted studying at 3 a.m. Grinders who don't want anyone knowing how hard they try. Don't worry, I said helpfully. I won't tell anyone you're sneaking into the dungeon for extra training. Who would train in a dungeon at midnight? Is probably what she was thinking. But it was the perfect cover story, so she grabbed it with both hands. Yes, that's exactly it. Extra training. Definitely not here to see you. Don't get the wrong idea. Yeah, I know. I stood up and offered her my hand to help her up. Normal gesture. Common courtesy. Didn't think twice about it. She stared at my hand like it was a live grenade. Just frozen, staring, face slowly turning pink. I started pulling my hand back. Are you seriously still mad about the collision? I'm not mad. She snatched my hand like it was about to disappear forever. Our fingers touched. Her face went from pink to full tomato. I could feel her pulse hammering through her palm as I pulled her to her feet. In my mind, wow, she's really embarrassed about getting caught grinding secretly. Her blood pressure must be through the roof. Women are so stubborn about admitting things. In reality, as I would much later find out, this was a princess experiencing physical contact with a non-family male for the first time in her entire life. But I thought she was a merchant's daughter, so this level of reaction made zero sense to me. If you're okay, I gotta run. I have urgent business. She was still buffering. I turned to leave. 3 steps later, wait, she grabbed my sleeve. I turned back. She opened her mouth to speak, and nothing. Her face was doing an entire emotional Olympics. She wanted to say something. I could tell, but the words were stuck. I waited. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. Still nothing. Just a red-faced girl clutching my sleeve and vibrating with unspoken words. Seriously, your secret training is safe with me. I really have to go. I gently freed my sleeve and walked away. For real this time. 3 steps. For steps. 5. Princess Lilith defeated Victoria with Inferno Blast in the placement exam. She's way stronger than you predicted, she screamed it at my back at maximum volume, then immediately bolted in the completely opposite direction, toward the girls' dorms, running like her life depended on it. Gone in seconds. Vanished into the night. I stood there, hands still half raised, watching her disappear. My first thought, that poor girl was so flustered from getting caught that she ran the wrong way and yelled random exam results at me as a panic response. My second thought, arriving approximately 3 seconds later like a delayed detonation spell, hold on, full stop. Every muscle frozen. She said Lilith. Used Inferno Blast. And beat Victoria? That's not what happens. That has never been what happens. In 81 playthroughs, Victoria wins this fight. Every single time. Lilith won. My prediction changed the outcome by telling Lily, the fan club member, that Victoria would use a feint. That information somehow reached. Wait, how would a random fan club member's knowledge affect? Unless. No. The gears in my head started turning at dangerous speed, but I didn't have time for this right now. I had a suicide made to intercept. But somewhere deep in my brain, a tiny alarm was already screaming that something about Lily Callow didn't add up at all. I didn't know any of this was happening at the time. I was busy sneaking across campus trying to find my maid before she went nuclear. But this is what was going on in the Academy Hospital while I was playing Secret Agent. Victoria was sitting in a hospital bed, right arm and shoulder wrapped in thick bandages, burns from the edge of Inferno Blast. Even through painkillers and healing salves, she could feel it throbbing, a constant reminder that she lost. Not just lost, got read like a book. Her big feint strategy, the one I'd predicted would win her the match, got completely countered. Lilith saw through it, aimed the Inferno Blast at her escape route, and blew her plan apart before it even started. Sylvia sat beside her for 2 hours trying everything. It's just one loss. You were amazing out there. The upperclassmen were so impressed. Maybe Lilith just got lucky. Victoria answered each attempt with a flat, or, is that so? Or just silence. Polite enough to not snap at her best friend, but clearly somewhere far away in her own head. When the nurse came and told Sylvia visiting hours were ending, Sylvia rattled off a worried checklist. Don't get the bandages wet, take your medicine, call someone if it hurts at night. Then left reluctantly, looking back at every other step. The door clicked shut. And that's when Victoria's mask cracked. Her straight back slumped. Her left hand clenched the bedsheet until her knuckles went white. She stared at her bandaged shoulder, and every throb of pain replayed the fight in perfect, cruel detail. She didn't just lose a school match. She lost the first real test of everything she'd been building toward since she was a child watching her village burn. The memories came flooding back uninvited. The fire, the screaming, her father standing at the door with a wood-cutting axe, a mountain of a man who disappeared in an instant. Her mother shoving her into the tunnel with a hug so tight it hurt her bones. Live, Victoria, Sylvia dragging her away while she kicked and screamed and clawed the ground bloody. That night, she swore she'd become strong enough to cut through any tragedy, strong enough to protect everyone she loved, strong enough to destroy the demons who took everything. When the hero's blessing chose her, she thought the world was finally answering, telling her, yes, your path is right. Keep going. And then she walked into her first real fight and got dismantled by a princess who'd never known a day of hardship in her life. No tricks, no clever tactics, just raw talent and overwhelming firepower that made all of Victoria's careful planning look like a joke. Now she sat alone in a moonlit hospital room, asking herself the question that hurts worse than any burn. Can someone like me really make it to the end? Can I really carry the name hero and finish what I swore to do? For the first time, she doubted herself. And this, all of this, was my fault. I'm the one who told Lilith about the feint. I gave away Victoria's winning strategy to her opponent's face without even knowing it. I changed the outcome of a fight that was supposed to launch Victoria's confidence, and instead turned it into the thing that nearly broke her. 81 playthroughs of knowledge, and I used it to accidentally sabotage the one person the entire world needs to succeed. I wasn't laughing anymore. While Victoria was having her dark night of the soul, staring at the moon and questioning everything she'd ever believed about herself, she kept coming back to one annoying thought, me. She touched the reflect gem hidden under her hospital gown. The gem I gave her. The whole plan had been to dodge the inferno blast, use the explosion smoke as cover, activate the gem, then hit Lilith with a mid-tier wind cannon from a blind angle. Victory guaranteed. But the plan died at step 1. She never even got to use the gem. And that made her feel something she absolutely hated feeling. Guilt. Toward me. The guy she despises. I gave her that gem knowing she hated me, trusting her anyway, and she felt like she'd wasted my faith. She hated that feeling more than losing. Because it was complicated. And Victoria doesn't do complicated emotions about people she's supposed to hate. Anyway, while she was drowning in existential crisis next door, here's what was happening in room 303. Me. Absolute disaster state. Getting to the hospital had been a nightmare. My negative 10 luck stat turned a simple campus walk into a gauntlet of horrors. First, a patrolling teacher spotted me and assumed I was an intruder. Fireballs launched at my face as warning shots. While dodging those, I accidentally stumbled into a mini-boss that isn't even supposed to spawn until late chapter 1. A wandering wraith. Half-formed, thankfully, but still terrifying. After what felt like a full action movie's worth of near-death experiences, I finally crawled to the hospital. At this point, I was seriously questioning whether avoiding known death CG locations even matters. With MY Luck stat, the universe will just invent new ways to kill me anywhere I go on the surface. I found what I thought was Victoria's room, the protagonist's designated hospital room from the game, and threw myself onto the bed, sobbing over the heavily bandaged person lying there. Little V, what happened? You can't die? We've been through so much together. I raised you like my own child. I can't believe I'm outliving you. Full dramatic performance. Tears and everything. Because if Victoria dies, who saves the world? Me? The guy who almost got killed by a teacher on a nighttime walk? I am not doing the hero's journey. That's her job. Stay strong, Victoria. You have the hero's blessing. You can't let a little thing like a fatal injury stop you. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. I was really going for it. Oscar-worthy grief. Motivational speech of a lifetime. Then the actual door opened behind me. Hey, what are you doing? Ice-cold voice. I turned around in slow motion. Victoria was standing in the doorway, leaning against the frame, one arm bandaged, but very much alive and upright, glaring at me with enough killing intent to freeze the room. I looked at her, looked at the person on the bed, looked back at her. You? bear an uncanny resemblance to a dear friend of mine. Did a dungeon monster eat your brain? I'm the real Victoria. Wait, seriously? You took Inferno Blast to the face, and you're walking around with just that much bandaging. Actually, the hero's blessing probably absorbed most of the damage. That tracks. She's built different. Then who the hell is this? I slowly looked down at the person I'd been crying over, hugging, and delivering an emotional monologue to for the past several minutes. Through the gaps in the bandages, a pair of completely unfamiliar, absolutely terrified eyes stared back at me. We locked gazes. Me, random bandaged stranger. 3 seconds of pure, crystallized silence. I had just burst into a stranger's hospital room, thrown myself onto their bed, called them Little V, claimed to have raised them as my own flesh and blood, cried real tears onto their bandages, and delivered an inspirational speech about believing in themselves. To someone I have never met in my life. This is what negative 10 luck looks like, people. It doesn't just try to kill you. It makes sure you humiliate yourself on the way there. So I'm standing in the hospital hallway with the actual Victoria, having just emotionally bonded with a complete stranger in her bed. Quick explanation. In the game, whenever a playable character gets hospitalized, they always go to that specific room. But in the original story, Victoria never needed a hospital bed because she wins the exam. Since my interference flipped the outcome, someone else got assigned the room instead. Simple logic that my panic brain completely skipped. I checked the stranger's student ID, some girl named Yelena, and politely informed her that everything she witnessed tonight would remain confidential. She nodded so fast I thought her neck would snap. Back in the hallway, Victoria stood there watching me. Bandaged arm, but clearly mobile. Not dying. Good. Doesn't look too bad, I said, genuinely relieved. That's a weight off my shoulders, she blinked. I could tell she'd been expecting me to mock her for losing. She'd taken my gem and couldn't even use it. In her mind, that was humiliating. Her eyes scanned my torn-up uniform, the burn marks, the scratches, the general. I just survived a war zone. Look, I was rocking. That you're not angry with me? She asked, voice quieter than usual. I took your gem and lost without even getting to use it. Lost is lost. It's one exam. What matters is you're okay. I meant every word. As long as Victoria the hero is alive and growing, one loss to a princess means absolutely nothing. She'll beat Lilith eventually. She'll beat the Demon King. She'll save the world. One bad day doesn't change the destination. She clearly didn't expect that answer. No sarcasm, no disappointment, no interrogation about what went wrong. Just acceptance and a hint of genuine concern for her injuries. It threw her off balance worse than Lilith's fire magic. Don't overthink it, I added. Taking Inferno Blast head-on and still standing is nothing to be ashamed of. You had a counterplan ready. That already puts you above most people. You lost this round. Win the next one. Your road is long. She went quiet. Then a tiny, almost invisible, but I could tell something shifted. That mountain of self-doubt pressing down on her cracked just a little. Not gone. Not healed. But cracked. Rest up. I gotta go. Your injuries. I'll sleep it off. Later, I bounced. Mission 1. Confirm protagonist is alive. Check. Now for the real mission. I left the academy grounds and entered Yenil City, the bustling town just outside the school walls. Beautiful place at night. Magic-powered streetcars, glowing shop windows, neon spell billboards advertising the latest wands and theater shows. In the game, I used to wander these streets for hours doing side quests and soaking in the atmosphere. Tonight, I was speed-running through back alleys like a fugitive. I knew exactly where Ellie would be. No one told me. There was no message with coordinates. But after 81 playthroughs, I understood this character better than anyone. She would pick the highest point with the best view. Somewhere dramatic. Somewhere lonely. The city clock tower. Tallest building in Yenil. Ancient brick and stone. Giant mechanical clock face gleaming under the moon. Closed to the public, but I knew about a hidden maintenance ladder from the game's exploration routes. I climbed. Wind getting louder. City shrinking below into a sea of tiny lights. Pushed open the heavy door at the top. The platform was empty except for massive gears turning slowly, ticking like a giant heartbeat. And there, standing beyond the safety railing, on the very edge of the void overlooking the sleeping city, a figure in white. Maid uniform, golden hair flowing in the wind, standing still as a spear, like she'd been waiting there for days. She sensed me, turned around. Moonlight hit her face, and yeah, I understood why she was the most popular side character in the game. Porcelain perfect features. Crystal blue eyes so clear you could drown in them, so deep you might never surface. An absolutely stunning face attached to a woman standing casually on the wrong side of a railing at the top of a tower. Her expression was calm. She was smiling. A soft, gentle, terrifying smile. Every hair on the back of my neck stood up. Ellie Hill, my personal maid. Well, former personal maid. She tilted her head slightly, and that smile deepened by exactly 1 degree. The degree that separates welcoming from threatening. Good evening, young Master Greg. You arrived a bit later than I expected. Her voice was soft as the night breeze. Next time you're this late, I'll kill you. The tilde at the end of that sentence was doing a lot of heavy lifting. Being a few minutes late is grounds for execution now? Is this some new form of workplace harassment? In your eyes, does your master's life have the same value as punctuality? Oh wait, I get it. This must be one of those twisted expressions of loyalty where death threats equal affection. Truly heartwarming. So heartwarming, I'm getting goosebumps of terror. Ellie ignored my entire rant. Smile unchanged. Head tilted. Blue eyes sparkling. Also, young master, showing up to see me in such tattered clothing is quite rude. Next time you appear this unkempt, I'll strip you naked and throw you into the Central Plaza fountain. Public execution for a dress code violation? Your punishment ideas are getting more unhinged by the day. And whose fault is it that I look like this? I had to cross an entire campus of death traps to get here because someone left a suicide threat and vanished. You think I wanted to climb a clock tower in beggar clothes? She blinked, thought about it, then clapped her hands in realization. Ah, you're right. My mistake. Next time I'll prepare a formal outfit for you in advance, and then execute the punishment. Problem solved. The problem is not the outfit. The problem is the punishment. Communicating with this woman was harder than surviving the dungeon. Then a cloud moved, and the moonlight hit her face full force. And my complaints died in my throat. Because behind that perfect porcelain smile, deep in those clear blue eyes, I caught it, just for a second, before she could mask it. Real, concentrated, bone-deep worry. The kind you can't fake. It clashed so violently with her casual, "I'll kill you," and "I'll strip you," that it almost hurt to look at. She noticed the moonlight betraying her. The programmed smile faded. She looked at me and said, in a completely different voice, flat, quiet, "No honorifics, no jokes. Don't ever pull a disappearing act on me again. You, hopeless idiot. No threat. No teasing. Just raw honesty wrapped in the thinnest layer of irritation." She turned away and stared out at the city lights below, giving me nothing but her moonlit profile and golden hair blowing in the wind. And I just stood there, because I knew. In the original game, across 81 playthroughs and 1,380 death endings, Ellie followed Greg into every single one. No matter how stupid his choices, no matter how hopeless the route, no matter how obvious the incoming bad end, she walked right into it with him. Every single time. And when he died, she died right after. Not because she had to, because she chose to. She was the only character who never abandoned him. In a game where literally everyone hates Greg's sass, where the entire world is designed to kill him, one person just kept showing up, kept standing next to the most doomed character in the story, till the very end. What did I ever do to deserve that kind of loyalty? I muttered into the wind. I walked up and stood beside her, looking out at the same view. Ellie, I'm not a noble anymore. Got disowned. You're not my maid either. You're free. So why don't you go live your own life? She turned to me with genuine confusion. Like the question didn't compute. I am living the life I want. Huh? She raised one finger, dead serious. When I'm in a bad mood, I can hit you with a sword whenever I want. That makes me happy. If I did that to anyone else, I'd be arrested. Very inconvenient. Being able to legally beat you up is already my ideal lifestyle. The touching moment evaporated. Hey, you rotten maid. What am I to you? Your personal punching bag? A human stress toy? Former master, she corrected calmly. Former master is still a master. Show some respect. But I knew. Half joke, half truth. The beating me up part was probably genuine. She seemed to sincerely enjoy it. But the real reason was simpler. She never even considered leaving. The concept of life without Greg's sass didn't exist in her operating system. Noble or commoner, successful or disgraced, she'd already welded her existence to mine. Honestly, I didn't want her to stay. My life was a minefield of death flags. Having her nearby could trigger worse scenarios, especially with her absurdly high combat power attracting attention. In the bad routes of the game, her strength was often what escalated situations into catastrophe. But she wasn't budging. Not an inch. I sighed. Full surrender. Fine. Do whatever you want. Practical matters, then. Just so you know, I'm broke. Living in a cave. Eating monsters. I definitely can't pay you a salary right now. I paused. My eyes drifted down to the noticeably plump leather coin purse hanging at her waist. But you probably have some savings, right? Ellie's hand slammed over her coin purse like I'd pulled a knife on her. Eyes went full guard cap mode. What do you mean? I extended my hand with zero shame. Lend me some money. The temperature between us dropped 10 degrees. Whatever tender moment we'd been having. Gone. Obliterated. Excuse me. Her eyes narrowed to dangerous slits. Borrowing money from your own maid? Young Master Greg, has your brain finally rotted away completely from all those stupid adventures? I puffed out my chest, with approximately zero authority behind it. Shut up. I paid your salary how many times? It's your turn to pay me once. What's wrong with that? You. She almost laughed from sheer disbelief. She opened her mouth to destroy me verbally, took one look at my supremely confident face, and stopped. I could see the gears turning. My logic was objectively terrible, mathematically nonsensical, ethically questionable. But somehow, she was processing it as if it almost made sense. The realization that my garbage argument was partially working on her made her even more annoyed. But it was the, fine, arguing with this moron is pointless, kind of annoyed. She glared at me with an expression that screamed, I have lost my mind, yanked open her coin purse, fished out 3 gold coins, and threw them at my face like she was pitching fastballs. One time only. Ask again, and I will actually cut you. I fumbled to catch all 3. Cold metal. Satisfying weight. My heart sang. OJBK. The slang from my previous life slipped out before I could stop it. Didn't matter. I was rich. Well, 3 coins rich. But after days of sleeping on rocks and eating monsters with improvised seasoning, 3 gold coins felt like winning the lottery. I could buy supplies, blankets, maybe even a pillow. Ellie watched me beaming over 3 coins like a child with candy money. Her expression was complicated. She knew the old Greg burned through gold like firewood. Seeing this version get genuinely excited over pocket change was different, more human. Less insufferable. Just slightly less insufferable, she'd insist. So, she crossed her arms. Where have you been hiding? Think disappearing is funny, not hiding. I had an awakening. I'm seriously training in the dungeon now. Want to get stronger. Prove myself. 2 seconds of silence. Your brain is broken. HEY? Is it that weird for me to be motivated? I thought about it. Remembered original Greg's track record. Okay, fine. It is pretty weird. But weird or not, I had a system quest threatening me with death if I didn't clear dungeon floor 1. This wasn't ambition. This was survival dressed up as ambition. I pocketed the coins. The goofy smile dropped. I looked at Ellie, really looked at her, and let the moonlight do its thing with my eyes. I'm serious, Ellie. My voice was steady, quieter than before, a tone she'd never heard from the old Greg. And I don't want to spend forever standing behind you. The night wind stopped. I meant it practically. She's always been the strong one, the protector, the reason Greg survived past Chapter 3 in most routes. I was always the liability being carried. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to be useful, to stand beside her, not behind her. But apparently, the way I said it, combined with the moonlight, the wind, the dramatic clock tower setting, made it sound like something very different. Ellie stared at me. Her blue eyes searched my face for the old Greg, the idiot, the coward, and couldn't find him. And then, barely visible in the cold moonlight, her cheeks turned pink. Ellie, the combat monster. The woman who threatens to kill me every 3rd sentence. The maid who just threw coins at my face. Blushing. I didn't notice, obviously. I was busy mentally planning my shopping list. Bedroll, cooking pot, salt, maybe some rope. The romantic implications of, I don't want to stand behind you forever, delivered on a moonlit clock tower, flew completely over my head and crashed into the city below. But she caught every word. Okay, so here's what I was actually thinking when I said all that cool stuff about not standing behind her anymore. I wanted her to carry me through the dungeon. Ellie is level 68. 68. The dungeon's recommended entry level is 20, and I'm level 16. With her, I could bulldoze floor 1 in about 15 minutes flat. But nope. The dungeon entrance has a barrier that only allows enrolled academy students through. My level 68 nuclear weapon of a maid can't even step inside. Life is cruel. At least I'd accomplished tonight's main objective. Convince Ellie not to storm the dungeon and host my funeral. Mission accomplished. Maid stabilized. Crisis averted. But then I realized a new problem. Where does she go? She can't enter the academy. She can't follow me underground. Am I supposed to leave her wandering around the city with nothing to do, waiting for me to sneak out every few days? That's depressing. And knowing Ellie, an idle Ellie is a dangerous Ellie. She'd probably start a gang or overthrow local government out of boredom. I was standing there brainstorming housing solutions when my beautiful negative 10 luck stats said, "Hey, remember me." Crack. Above us, the massive bronze bell, the one that's been hanging at the top of this clock tower for probably centuries, snapped free from its ancient metal supports. Several tons of solid bronze, coated in green rust, and carrying the full weight of gravity's personal vendetta against me, plummeted straight down toward my head. Shadow covered me. Wind slammed my face. "Young master." Ellie moved instantly. Hand on sword. Eyes calculating angles, distances, trajectories. Could she pull me away? Slash the bell? Any option at all. The math came back cold. Impossible. Too close. Too fast. Too heavy. She couldn't save me without the blast hitting me anyway. I looked up. All I saw was a rapidly expanding wall of corroded bronze. I'm dead. That was my only thought. Clean. Simple. Final. My brain completely shut down. Then a voice spoke directly into my soul, calm as a cat napping by a fire. "The gifts I gave you are not decorations, nightmare." Pure survival instinct overrode my frozen brain. My body moved before my mind caught up, activating something carved into whatever was left of my divine core. Dark Arm Guard, level 1. Black mist, thick, alive, swirling, erupted around both my forearms, forming a pair of gauntlets made of pure concentrated darkness. Not metal, not magic, something else entirely. Something that felt ancient and hungry. The bell hit, and the darkness ate it. No crash, no explosion, no sparks. The moment that multi-ton bronze bell touched the black mist, the mist surged outward like a tidal wave of shadow and swallowed the entire thing whole. Absorbed it, dissolved it, erased it from existence. The mist receded back into the armed guards, which flickered and faded away. The bell was gone. Completely. Not a single flake of rust remained. Like it had never existed. I stood there with my arms still crossed in a blocking pose, staring at where several tons of metal used to be. Ellie stood frozen mid-lunge, hand white-knuckled on her sword, face displaying an emotion I'd never seen on her before. Total, absolute, brain-breaking confusion. We both just stood there in the wind. "What just happened?" she finally asked, voice tight. "That bell. It fell. And then black fog. Idiot. What was that? Since when can you do that? I've watched you grow up. You could barely cast a proper fire spell. What is that power?" Fair questions. All of them. I was asking the same things internally. I knew the dark abilities would be strong. Level 10 affinity doesn't mess around. But deleting a giant bell from reality? That's not strong. That's rewriting physics. No one in the original game ever used dark magic, so I had zero frame of reference. I expected maybe a cool shadow shield, not a void that consumes matter. I couldn't hide this from Ellie. She'd literally watched it happen. And honestly, she was the one person in this world I could trust completely. Long story short, I cleared my throat. I was chosen by an ancient being. Think of me as her messenger. Ancient being, the goddess of night. Nightmare. Ellie's pupils contracted. She knew that name, barely, from fragments of ancient texts so old they were practically mythology. A deity the Church of Light deliberately erased from history. And now her idiot former master was claiming to be that goddess's chosen one. The look on her face was priceless. A perfect cocktail of, that explains the impossible thing I just saw. And there is absolutely no way this moron was chosen by a god. Ellie went quiet after I told her about Nightmare. I could see the gears grinding behind those blue eyes. On one hand, her idiot master claiming to be a lost goddess's chosen one sounded absolutely insane. On the other hand, she just watched a multi-ton bell get eaten by shadows coming out of my arms. Hard to argue with that, but I wasn't done dropping bombs. Because during those few seconds of silence, my brain had been cooking up the most ambitious, most ridiculous plan of my entire 2 lives. Ellie, I need you to do something for me. Something only you can do. What? I need you to start a religion. She stared at me like I'd asked her to build a spaceship out of cheese. A religion? Worshipping who? The goddess of night. Nightmare's power runs on faith. No believers for centuries means she's basically running on fumes. If we can get even a small group of followers, she gets stronger. And if she gets stronger, I didn't finish the sentence, but Ellie connected the dots. If the goddess powers up, her messenger powers up too. Simple divine economics. But what I was really thinking went deeper than that. I'd seen Victoria tank Inferno Blast with just burn marks, thanks to her hero's blessing. That kind of divine protection is the difference between dead and walk it off. If Nightmare recovered enough power to grant me something similar, even a fraction of that, then suddenly my negative 10 luck stat becomes survivable. Suddenly bells falling on my head become annoying instead of fatal. Suddenly the 1,380 death endings stop being inevitable. I could stop depending entirely on Victoria to save the world and save me by proxy. I could stop tiptoeing around every familiar scene, terrified of triggering the next death flag. I could grab my own fate by the throat. The thought burned through me like wildfire. For the first time since waking up in this world, I felt something beyond survival instinct. Something that almost resembled hope. I looked at Ellie with probably way too much intensity. I know it sounds crazy. Asking a sword specialist made to found a secret underground religion for a goddess nobody remembers. It's insane. But you're the only person I can ask. She lowered her head, golden hair curtaining her face. Wind howling around us on the now bell-less clock tower. Long silence. Then she looked up. Something had crystallized behind those blue eyes. A decision, made and sealed. Fine. I'll try. But don't expect miracles. I exhaled so hard I almost deflated. Thank you. I knew I could count on you. We wrapped up the details quickly. I'd be in the dungeon most of the time. Surface visits would be rare and risky, so everything that needed saying got said now. She listened, nodded occasionally, said almost nothing. All right, I should head back. Take care of yourself, MM. She looked away as I left. I disappeared down the stairs without looking back. Now, I wasn't there for what happened next. But I know Ellie. After 81 playthroughs, I know her better than she probably knows herself. She stood on that empty tower for a long time after I left, looking at the city but not seeing it, processing everything. Her feelings, as I'd eventually come to understand them, were something like, someone stole my toy and forced it onto a pirate ship, and now I have to chase the pirate ship. The toy was me. The pirate ship was cosmic destiny with a cat goddess. But underneath the annoyance, old memories surfaced. A little golden-haired brat who followed her around, claiming he wasn't scared of the dark while clearly terrified. A slightly older version who'd, accidentally, toss a healing potion her way when she got hurt during sword practice, pretending he didn't care. And then the version who grew arrogant and stupid and disappointing, but who she could never truly abandon. She opened her eyes. Moonlight reflected in blue irises that had gone hard as steel. Whatever. That idiot has nobody else. If even I let go, he'll truly have nothing. She stood there until dawn started painting the horizon, then vanished from the tower like she'd never been there at all. So to summarize my current situation, I'm a half-god with a cat living in my shadow, a holy chastity seal on my equipment, a maid founding a secret religion on my behalf, 2 heroines who are both angry at me for different reasons, a princess who thinks I'm her friend but I don't know she's a princess, a main quest to clear a dungeon floor or die, and negative 10 luck that literally drops buildings on me. Day 6 of my new life. This is fine. I must say, the quality of beautiful girls around you is surprisingly high. Nightmare's voice drifted from my shadow as I was wrestling with tent ropes. Even the maid meets premium standards. Though that gray-haired girl falls a bit short, her chest area is rather barren. You don't understand anything. I shot back without looking up. Gray hair's leg game is god tier. That alone is worth massive bonus points. Yes, I was debating female body appreciation with a cat goddess while assembling camping equipment. This is my life now. But check it out, I had a tent. 2 gold coins, but worth every copper. This thing was the real deal. Waterproof canvas, built-in padding, and the killer feature, a tiny magic crystal in the support pole that generates a basic defense barrier around the whole tent. It won't stop anything serious, but it'll zap the little bugs and creepy crawlies that like sneaking up on sleeping adventurers. For the first time in almost a week, I wouldn't be sleeping directly on freezing wet stone. I nearly cried. I barely finished setting up before a black blur zoomed past my legs and dove inside. Nightmare claimed the softest spot, curled up, and stretched luxuriously. Hey, freeloaders who contributed 0 labor don't get to enjoy my tent. Learn some manners. She ignored me completely. Changed positions to get even more comfortable. Then casually dropped a question. That mate of yours, Ellie, was it? I can sense from her life essence that she's only 27, yet she's already level 68. Hero class territory. That growth rate would be considered genius even in my era. Why would someone like that choose to follow? Level 16 nobody like you. I sighed, gave up the bed territory war, and crawled inside to sit in the less comfortable corner. I don't know, not deflecting. Genuinely don't know. This was the biggest unsolved mystery of the entire game. Ellie Hill, top-tier swordswoman, stunning looks, incredible talent, devoted her life to serving Greg Sass, a guy with no redeeming qualities besides his face and family name. The original Greg treated her terribly, ordered her around, never showed respect, and she just stayed. Through every bad ending, through every idiotic decision, right to the grave, every single time. Players hated this. 1-star reviews flooded the forums. The devs lost their minds designing a loyalty slave character with 0 logical motivation. Everyone waited for the final DLC to explain it. The DLC explained nothing. The community's official conclusion. The character designer had a stroke, and nobody caught the error. How amusing, Nightmare purred. Even you don't know why? Truly fascinating. I didn't take the bait. Rolled over. Passed out. Woke up to tent darkness. Checked my new purchase. A used pocket watch, 5 copper coins, essential for keeping time in a place with no sun. 4 p.m. Nightmare was gone. Either back in my shadow or wandering. She's a goddess. She can handle herself on floor 1. Food supplies, almost empty. 1 or 2 meals of jerky left. Hunting was back on the priority list. But first, reconnaissance. I needed to check the passage connecting the shallow zone to the mid-level zone. Last I saw, a pack of goblins had taken up residence there. Goblins that shouldn't be in the shallows at all. They were blocking the only route deeper. Now, with my new dark magic, I wasn't completely helpless anymore. But that power drained mana fast. At my current level, I could maybe use it twice before running empty. In the dungeon, 0 mana equals dead meat. My original plan was to wait for Victoria and Sylvia, form a 3-person party, Sylvia on support and buffs, me and Victoria on offense, and clear the goblins together. Clean and safe. But Victoria was hospitalized. A week minimum before she could fight again. And, because my luck stat never stops giving, last night's campus escape accidentally triggered an early-game mini-boss to spawn ahead of schedule. A patrolling teacher killed it instantly, but that probably accelerated the world's plot timeline. Events that should have happened later might come sooner now. I couldn't afford to wait. Worst-case scenario, I might have to solo the dungeon. So step 1, scout the current situation. Know what I'm dealing with. Then make a plan. I grabbed my tools, strapped on my knife, took one last loving look at my beautiful new tent, my precious, precious tent, and stepped out into the dark, damp corridors of the dungeon. Day 7. New gear, new powers, new problems. Same negative, 10 luck. Let's go. Heading out on my scouting mission, I carved through a few groups of weak monsters along the way. Nothing scary, more like a warm-up jog than actual combat. But the loot was something. Skill acquired. Whimper Whimper. Whimper Whimper LV3 proficiency increased. Whimper Whimper upgraded to LV4. Burrow upgraded to LV2. Level up, LV17. Hey, experience and skill gains are still gains. My digestive bacteria talent is genuinely broken. In this world, raising a skill's proficiency normally requires years of training, high-level perception, and you usually can't push past certain thresholds until your character level catches up. Most people at my level would be lucky to have one skill at LV1. Meanwhile, I'm out here bypassing all of that by just killing stuff and absorbing random skill fragments like a sponge. It's the ultimate cheat. There's just one tiny problem. The skills are garbage. I opened my panel and looked at my highest proficiency skill, Whimper Whimper LV4. When you do not resist, enemies become unable to bring themselves to attack you for 4 seconds. Can only affect the same target once per day. I stared at this description for a solid 10 seconds. Is this a cute begging survival technique? Am I supposed to make puppy eyes and go, please don't hurt me, with my hands clasped together? Do I need to tilt my head at exactly 15 degrees for maximum effectiveness? And it only works once per target per day? So the first time they feel sorry for me, and the second time they're like, oh, it's this shameless guy again, and swing harder, for seconds of an enemy, not having the heart to hit me. Against a real threat, that's just giving them 4 extra seconds to charge up something worse. The only other notable skill was Burrow LV2, which lets me partially sink into the ground and move. Sounds cool in theory. In practice, last time I tested it, I shoved my face into solid rock, got a mouthful of dirt, and immediately got stuck. Couldn't move forward, couldn't move backward. Had to claw myself out like a panicking mole. Nearly buried myself alive. Unless I find some kind of movement enhancement gem to pair with it, this skill's only practical application is competitive dirt eating. The resistance skills I'd picked up, blunt damage resistance, frost resistance, water adaptation, were actually useful for daily dungeon survival. Getting knocked around hurt less. Falling in the river wasn't instant panic anymore. But these resist skills had terrible drop rates and leveled up at a glacial pace. Building a meaningful advantage from them would take approximately forever. I closed the skill panel and focused on the mission. I'd reached the passage connecting the shallow zone to the mid-level zone. A wide connecting cavern, rocky terrain everywhere, perfect ambush geography. I pressed myself behind a large boulder and peeked around the edge. There they were. Short, muscular green-skinned figures moving in the dim light, their oily skin catching the glow of luminescent moss. I could hear their guttural chatter and the clink of crude weapons tapping stone. Goblins. Still camped at the entrance. Still blocking the only path forward. Yep, still here. In a game, I'd be filing a bug report. Elite monsters camping the newbie zone exit? Clearly a spawn error. But this wasn't a game. So what's the deal? I muttered, genuinely confused. Did these goblins get smart and decide to gatekeep adventurers from leveling up? Or did something happen deeper in the dungeon that forced them up here? Option 1 was annoying. Option 2 was terrifying. Either way, those goblins stood between me and clearing this floor. And with Victoria out of commission, my original 3-person party plan was in the trash. I crouched behind my rock, watching the green patrol shuffle back and forth, and started doing math I really didn't want to do. Could I solo them? With fire magic, water magic, and a couple uses of dark void powers before my mana hits 0? The answer was, maybe, but probably in the most painful, desperate, embarrassing way possible. Classic Greg Sass experience. I was crouching behind my rock, strategizing about the goblin situation, when a voice materialized right next to my ear. I can faintly hear some noise coming from the mid-level area. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Nightmare was sitting on the rock beside me like she'd been there all day, ears twitching, staring toward the deeper dungeon. Don't do that, I hissed. What kind of noise? Big monster roaring? Fighting. If some deep floor boss had gone berserk, that would explain why mid-level goblins fled upward. But boss rampages don't last this long, and these goblins had been camping here for days. Nightmare shook her little cat head. No, it's a duller, more rhythmic sound. Something foreign. Something this dungeon should not contain. A sound that doesn't belong in the dungeon. That changed everything. I immediately connected the dots to those 3 upperclassmen I'd spotted passing through days ago. They entered the dungeon, and shortly after, goblins started appearing where they shouldn't be. Too convenient to be coincidence. Those 3 did something down there. But what? Whatever creates a persistent, unnatural noise deep enough to displace entire monster populations isn't a casual weekend project. Those students were up to something serious. Nightmare melted back into my shadow without another word, leaving me to think. The situation was clear and terrible. Goblins blocking the only path to mid-level means I can't investigate alone. I need backup to punch through. And time was running out. The first chapter's endgame events were approaching. Soon, Victoria would still be hospitalized and Sylvia would enter her missing phase from the original story. If I waited too long, I'd have zero allies available. We have to push through now. Just me and Victoria. Brute force floor 1 before everything falls apart. Decision made. I retreated quietly toward the dungeon exit. Time to recruit my injured hero. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Sylvia was doing her daily bedside visit, updating Victoria on school life. A class had started. Intense curriculum. Lilith was apparently dominating class discussions so hard she was stumping the teachers. Oh, and the irony was beautiful. Victoria lost the exam, but still got placed in A class based on her performance. In the original game, it was Lilith who lost, but got accepted into A class anyway. The universe just swapped their positions. Same result, mirror image. Victoria had been a zombie for 2 days, barely responding. Is that so? Silence. Sylvia expected more of the same tonight. Then Victoria looked up, and her eyes were back. That fire, that edge, that I will destroy you energy. Sounds like Lilith thinks she's the strongest first year now. Sylvia froze. When I get out of here, I'm challenging her again. Officially, Sylvia's brain needed a second to process. Then it hit her. Victoria was back. Not broken, not hollow, not staring at her hands in despair. She was already planning her rematch. Sylvia launched herself off the chair and tackle-hugged her injured best friend on the hospital bed, crying and laughing at the same time. You're back. I knew it. I knew you'd pull through. Victoria awkwardly patted her back with her good arm. Sorry for worrying you so long. Sylvia pulled away, wiping happy tears. I knew you could bounce back on your own. And that's when Victoria did something I'd never expect from the Ice Queen. She looked away, fidgeted with her hair, and said in the quietest possible voice, actually, it wasn't entirely on my own. She didn't say my name. But we all know whose dumb pep talk on a hospital hallway at midnight. You lost. So what? Win the next one. Your road is long. Was the thing that cracked through the wall. Not that I'll ever get credit for it. And not that I want any. As long as the protagonist is back on her feet and ready to fight, my survival plan stays intact. Now I just needed her to heal fast enough to help me kill some goblins before the world's plot timer ran out. No pressure. So here's what happened while I was gone. Victoria told Sylvia about my midnight hospital visit. Admitted, reluctantly, with a slight blush and maximum tsundere energy, that my words helped her snap out of it. I'll admit he slightly changed my opinion. But he was horrible to me at orientation. So I still hate him. Definitely still hate him. Classic. I hate him, but actually maybe not as much, speech. Delivered with zero convincing power. Then I ruined the moment by climbing through the window. Sounds like someone's character arc is going full tsundere, I announced from the windowsill. KYA. Sylvia nearly launched into orbit. I hauled myself inside and immediately regretted how I looked. My uniform was destroyed. Fresh cuts, dust everywhere, blood streaks on my face. Hair like I'd fought a tornado and lost. Senior Greg. What happened to you? Sylvia rushed over, pink eyes full of worry. Long story. So I won't tell it, because here's what actually happened. I went looking for Sylvia at the girls' dormitory. At night. Like an absolute moron. Couldn't find her. She was at the hospital visiting Victoria. But my -10 luck found me. First, I almost ran face first into a girl fresh out of the shower. Dodging her, I crashed into a drying rack, which dominoed into more drying racks. The noise activated a patrol golem. While fleeing the golem, I tripped a prank alarm barrier that lit up half the dormitory zone like a Christmas tree. I was approximately 30 seconds away from triggering an all-campus girl-led manhunt. The biggest social death event in school history. I escaped using nothing but my memorized campus map and the desperate survival instincts of a man with everything to lose. This story will go to my grave. No one can ever know. Victoria and Sylvia saw my battered state and naturally assumed I'd been fighting dangerous monsters in the dungeon, risking his life for his sacred mission. So dedicated. So brave. He must be working so hard exploring that dangerous place. Their respect for me visibly increased. Both of them looked at me with genuine warmth and admiration. I accepted this completely unearned goodwill without blinking. Victoria cut straight to business. You didn't come here just to chat. What do you need, smart girl? I'd visited yesterday to check on her. Coming back tonight, beaten up, meant I had an agenda. Remember our deal? I need you both to help me clear dungeon floor 1. Sylvia glanced at Victoria's bandaged shoulder nervously. But she's still hurt. Victoria stayed quiet, watching me. She could tell I was urgent, and she trusted that I had a reason. My real reason. The system quest deadline was ticking. If Act 1 ends before I clear floor 1, I unlock the prestigious death CG 1381. But I obviously couldn't say that. So I deployed the perfect excuse. True enough to be convincing, dramatic enough to create urgency. The dungeon has been showing abnormal signs recently. I think something's wrong deeper inside, and I want to investigate as soon as possible. I paused for dramatic effect, then dropped the hook. I've also received vague information that 3 upperclassmen entered the dungeon some time ago and haven't come out. I'm worried about them. Not technically a lie. 3 students did go in. They probably are still down there. And something is wrong. I just conveniently framed, I need to clear this floor or a game system will literally execute me. As heroic concern for missing students. The concerned looks on both their faces told me the bait landed perfectly. Am I manipulating the hero and the future saint with a half-truth to save my own skin? Yes. Do I feel bad about it? I'll feel bad about it after I'm not dead. I have to say, I impressed even myself with that excuse. It was a masterpiece of emergency bullshitting. Layer 1. Based on real facts. The dungeon is abnormal. 3 students did go in and not come back. Totally verifiable. Layer 2. Repackaged my selfish survival quest as a noble rescue mission. I'm worried about those students. Sounds way better than. A game system will execute me if I don't clear this floor. Layer 3. Created urgency through humanitarian crisis. People might be dying down there. Is impossible to say no to. I should teach a class on this. Both girls immediately went serious. The dungeon is acting strange. Students are trapped inside. Victoria thought it through carefully. She knew she'd be dead weight with her injuries. The rational play was to stay behind and send the next best thing. I'll be useless down there right now. Sylvia, your light magic is strong support. You should go. Then she looked at me with those steel gray eyes. Take care of her. If anything happens to Sylvia, I will END you. The fact that Victoria trusted me enough to send her precious childhood friend with me? That was huge. A week ago, she would have rather fought Inferno Blast twice than let Sylvia within 10 feet of me unsupervised. Sylvia was practically glowing with excitement. She'd spent her whole life being protected as a saint candidate, told she was important but never actually allowed to do anything. Now she was being sent on a real mission. When do we leave? What should I prepare? I know floor 1 pretty well, so you don't need much. But ideally, we leave now. I wasn't exaggerating the urgency. The plot timeline was accelerating. That mini-boss I accidentally triggered early had shortened the chapter's runtime. And in the original story, the final event of Chapter 1 involved Sylvia getting kidnapped. If I didn't move fast, my healer would literally be stolen from me by the plot before we could clear the floor. They interpreted my haste as concern for the missing students. Perfectly on brand for Greg, the responsible night goddess messenger. We said goodbye to Victoria. Then came the exit strategy. We'll go through the window, I said. Sylvia followed my lead, clumsily but successfully dropping to the garden below. I hopped out after her, and we disappeared into the shadows. Victoria watched from the window until we were gone, then quietly resolved to heal faster. She owed us backup. Once we were on a quiet path away from the hospital, Sylvia asked the obvious question. Senior Greg, why did we climb out the window? Couldn't we just use the front door? Panic. The real answer, because I just caused a near-catastrophic incident at the girls' dormitory involving toppled laundry racks, a security golem chase, and a campus-wide alarm, and I was terrified of being identified by literally anyone. The excuse I gave. I don't want people knowing we're secretly in contact. Smooth. Mysterious. Makes me sound like a spy protecting his allies. Except Sylvia's face fell slightly. Her steps slowed. Oh no. She was interpreting, I don't want people seeing us together, as, I'm embarrassed to be associated with commoners. That's not what I meant at all. I meant, I'm a wanted man fleeing the scene of a laundry-related crime. But I couldn't correct the misunderstanding without explaining the actual reason, which was infinitely worse. This is what happens when you stack lies on top of half-truths on top of cowardice. Every sentence becomes a minefield. And I was about to walk into an actual minefield, the dungeon, with a girl who now thought I was slightly ashamed of her. Great start to a team dungeon run, Greg. Really nailing the party dynamics. You know my reputation at this school is garbage, right? I said, walking ahead. If people see us together at night, it'll cause rumors that hurt you, not me. I'm already rock bottom. So keeping a low profile is for your sake. I was just covering for my laundry rack crime spree. But behind me, Sylvia apparently heard something completely different. What I said, I don't want my bad reputation to damage your image. What she heard. He's so selfless and considerate that he's willing to inconvenience himself just to protect us. He doesn't care about his own suffering at all. He's so kind. I could practically feel the misunderstanding generating heat behind me, but I was too focused on not getting caught to notice. Then I spotted trouble ahead. A group of girls lingering near the path to the dungeon entrance, looking around like they were searching for someone. Probably still hunting for the male intruder from my earlier dormitory disaster. I grabbed Sylvia's wrist and yanked her into a thick ornamental hedge. As Senior Greg, she stumbled in after me. We were suddenly very close in a dark leafy corner. She could apparently smell grass and dust on me. Our faces were inches apart. Her eyes went wide. Her cheeks went nuclear. Quiet. People ahead. We wait until they pass. She peeked out and confirmed the patrol. Total understanding. No objections. And so began the most elaborate stealth mission of my life. Sneaking across campus with a blushing saint in training, hiding behind walls, ducking through gardens, pressing against cold stone while groups of girls walked past us. Here's the thing I didn't notice. Sylvia was having a spiritual awakening. This girl had been a perfect rule follower her entire life. Never broke a single regulation. Never stayed out past curfew. The model student, the model saint candidate, the model good girl. And now she was skulking through shadows with a boy at midnight, hiding from patrols, heart pounding, doing something explicitly not allowed. And she was loving it. Every time we pressed against a wall while footsteps passed by, her heart hammered not from fear, but from thrill. The forbidden excitement of being a bad kid for the first time. Doing wrong things in the dark where nobody could see. I had accidentally introduced the future saint of the Church of Light to the concept of rule breaking, and she was discovering she had a taste for it. I was completely oblivious. I was just trying not to get arrested. Meanwhile, back at the girls' dormitory, the scene of my crimes, chaos reigned. Girls chattering, teachers investigating, the whole building buzzing about the mysterious male intruder. But in one room, absolute silence. A golden-haired girl sat at a perfectly organized desk in a perfectly sterile room. No decorations. No personal touches. Furniture arranged with military precision. Bed so flat it looked unused. The room of someone who had optimized away everything that wasn't functional. She was writing documents by moonlight and lamplight, completely unbothered by the commotion outside. A maid with short black hair entered and reported. A male intruder infiltrated the dormitory area. He escaped. The staff is conducting a search. The golden-haired girl paused. Genuine confusion crossed her perfect features. Not fear, not anger, just pure inability to understand the cost-benefit analysis of breaking into a girl's dorm. What would anyone gain from that? Theft, perhaps. She shook her head. Not worth thinking about. Back to work. How is the other matter progressing? She asked. The maid's voice dropped, carrying a new weight. The team in the dungeon's deep first-floor area has gone completely silent. Tap. Her pen stopped. A single ink dot bloomed on the paper. So, someone else knew about those 3 students in the dungeon. And whoever this ice-cold, golden-haired perfectionist was, she was apparently the one who sent them there. The plot was thickening faster than my dungeon stew, and I was speed-walking toward the center of it with a saint who'd just discovered she enjoys being naughty. What could possibly go wrong? I wasn't in that room, but if I had been, I would have recognized her instantly. Catherine Roman. 4th position heroine. Only daughter, well, illegitimate daughter, of the president of the Roman Trade Association, the biggest and richest business empire in the kingdom. Sounds glamorous, right? It's not. Catherine is a survivor in the most literal sense. Her mother died when she was young. Her father gave her the family name and exactly nothing else. No love, no attention, no protection. Everything she has, she clawed for herself. Above her in the succession line, multiple legitimate siblings who've spent years building power within the organization. Every one of them views her as either irrelevant or a threat to be eliminated. If any of them inherits the company, Catherine's best-case scenario is exile. Worst case, a quiet disappearance and her modest assets absorbed into someone else's portfolio. So her fight for the inheritance isn't ambition. It's survival. Exactly like mine, actually, except she does it with contracts and I do it by hiding in caves. Growing up in that Shark Tank taught Catherine one core truth. Everything is transactions. Loyalty, friendship, family. Just pretty wallpaper over naked self-interest. She's watched lifelong business partners betray each other over a single profitable contract. She's watched blood siblings sabotage each other for mining rights. Her own father probably climbed to the top over relatives' bodies. In her world, morality is a luxury and sentiment is a weapon used against the weak. And those 3 missing students? Yeah, that was her. She'd secretly funded a small magic workshop to develop an experimental device, a wide-area monster-repelling tool. Unproven, unstable, potentially dangerous. She needed real dungeon testing data, but couldn't use official channels without alerting her siblings to the project. So she found 3 upperclassmen from declining noble families, drowning in debt and desperate for cash. Through a fake company intermediary, she offered them an absurdly generous fee to test the device in the dungeon's deep first-floor area. The contract clearly stated, in proper legal language, buried in the fine print, that testing could result in device failure, magical backlash, attraction of stronger monsters, severe injury, or death. She didn't lie. She didn't coerce. She offered money, disclosed risks, and let them choose. They read the contract carefully. They understood the danger. They signed anyway, because the money was too good and their situations were too desperate. Now they'd gone completely silent. Did Catherine feel guilty? Not one microscopic bit. They made their choice. She didn't hold a blade to anyone's throat. She felt mildly annoyed about losing the experimental data. That's Catherine Roman for you. Not evil. Just operating in a world where compassion is a competitive disadvantage, and she refuses to lose. And honestly, characters like her are exactly why I played this game 81 times. Most dating sims give you heroines who are either sweet angels or cute sundaras. This game, these girls are dangerous. Take Lilith, for example, number 3 heroine. On the surface, proud fire princess, competitive, passionate. But in the game, when her affection meter gets high enough and she notices another heroine score passing hers, the screen literally goes dark. The background music turns creepy. She invites you to special training. In the dungeon, engineers a cave-in that traps you both alone and whispers with those burning red eyes. Now nobody can interrupt us. That's a romance event in this game. The heart icons still pop up. You're still gaining affection points, while being held prisoner in a collapsed cave by a fire-wielding Yandra princess. And Catherine, her route is even more calculated. She doesn't trap you with fire. She traps you with contracts, favors, and debts until you realize you've been playing her game the entire time. These aren't normal heroines. These are apex predators in cute outfits. And Victoria, the protagonist tasked with romancing all of them, has the emotional intelligence of a brick wall and the social grace of a sledgehammer. No wonder this game needed 81 playthroughs. The margin for error with these women is essentially 0. One wrong dialogue choice and you're either dead, imprisoned, bankrupt, or in a relationship that's actually an elaborate hostage situation. Welcome to the dating sim from hell. And I'm living in it. Let me finish explaining why this game's heroines are absolutely terrifying, because I think people need to understand what Victoria is supposed to be romancing. The number 1 heroine, who hasn't shown up yet, is privately known in the player community as the ultimate juice squeezer. Her route is so emotionally and mentally draining that forum threads about her read like therapy session notes. Lilith, number 3, can cycle through Tsundere, Loser Dog, and Yandere modes depending on the affection balance. If she likes you too much while another girl's score is higher, horror movie time. Catherine, number 4, will smile warmly while mathematically calculating whether your relationship is a net positive for her survival strategy. Love isn't an emotion for her. It's a variable in an equation. A harem ending? In this game, the player community spent years trying. Nobody ever found one. The girls' personalities are fundamentally incompatible. Push one route too far, and another heroine goes dark. It's like juggling grenades where each grenade is jealous of the other grenades. Meanwhile, Catherine, who I now know was behind those 3 missing students, made her decision in that moonlit room. No rescue. No anonymous tip to the school. Those students and their experimental device would stay buried. She'd simply find new test subjects after the dormitory intruder commotion, my commotion, thanks very much, died down. Cold. Absolutely. But in her mind, they signed a contract with full knowledge of the risks. She didn't force anyone. She offered a deal. They accepted. The dungeon collected. That's Catherine Roman. Never technically wrong, never emotionally affected, and always already planning the next move. Now, back to me and Sylvia entering the dungeon. We'd barely stepped inside when Nightmare piped up in my head. Hey, my other half. Do you smell something strange? Who is your other half? Call me King of Night. You're the only person in this world who can use that title on me. If even you won't do it, what was the point of me negotiating for it? Am I supposed to stand in front of a mirror calling myself that? That's just pathetic. Brief silence. Then, hey, King of Night, do you smell something strange? Actually hearing it out loud is way more embarrassing than I imagined. Just call me Greg. You are truly exhausting. Anyway, what smell? It's not me, right? I sniffed my collar. I'd been maintaining basic hygiene even in dungeon conditions. Thank you very much. Standards matter. Not you. The girl beside you. Sylvia smells weird? I turned to look at her. She was walking carefully beside me. Pink hair glowing softly in the moss light. Delicate features. That pure and innocent aura that makes you want to protect her from everything bad in the world. Actually, she really was gorgeous. Top-tier heroine material for sure. I might have stared a second too long. As Senior Greg, she caught me looking. Slight blush. Is there something on my face? No? Nothing. I wasn't doing anything weird. I was definitely not smelling you. Please don't worry about it. Okay? Smooth, Greg. Real smooth. I switched to internal communication. All I can smell is something like a faint lily flower scent. Nothing strange about that. Nightmare. What exactly are you sniffing? You pervert. You told me to check for a strange smell. Then she dropped it. In that ethereal voice laced with unmistakable divine disgust. Yes, there is indeed a scent clinging to her. An aura that displeases me greatly. It is the distinct smell of. That BTCH. I nearly tripped over a rock. The one saying stuff like that is way more of a BTCH than anyone else here. Apparently, the goddess of night had beef with the goddess of light. Ancient divine sister rivalry. And poor sweet Sylvia, blessed by the light goddess, was walking around carrying the scent of Nightmare's cosmic enemy without knowing it. My party consisted of me, a half-god, of darkness, a saint candidate blessed by the light goddess my patron deity hates, and said patron deity living in my shadow making catty comments about a goddess she hasn't spoken to in centuries. This dungeon run was going to be fantastic. I didn't mean the girl herself, Nightmare clarified. I meant the smell of the goddess behind her. The goddess of light, Seraphina, yes, pure venom. That woman, flat as a desert wasteland in reality. Yet she always manifests with this ridiculous voluptuous disguise. I remember her once declaring, and I quote, "Those are merely useless lumps of excess flesh. What is there to envy?" And now look at her, parading around as the exact thing she once mocked. Hypocrite. Fraud. Absolute BIT. Hold on, I nearly fell over. Are you telling me the goddess of light's legendary chest is fake? I had seen Seraphina through Sylvia's cutscenes in the game. Holy, radiant, majestic, and possessing what can only be described as divine architecture of the highest order. That image was seared into the memory of every player who ever reached that scene. And it was all a lie? A small piece of my faith in this world's beautiful design crumbled to dust. I wanted to ask how Nightmare knew this, but the answer was obvious. Ancient sister goddesses. Shared history. You know each other's secrets. Standard divine family dynamics. So I asked the practical question, can you prove it? Certainly. Nightmare sounded delighted. Simply shout at the girl in front of you, at the top of your lungs. Seraphina is a flat-chested fraud pretending to have big ones. No matter where she is or what she's doing, she will immediately possess her most compatible vessel and manifest here to settle the score with you personally. Want to try? I didn't answer right away. Because my brain, my beautiful, terrible, always calculating brain, went somewhere dangerous. The goddess of light commands the largest, most devout religion on the planet. Millions of believers. Oceanic levels of faith power. If I could summon her, somehow sweet-talk her, maybe score some divine protection or buffs. Clearing this dungeon floor? Easy. The next 4 dungeons? Manageable. My entire survival problem? Solved. What's your current relationship with her? I asked carefully. Irreconcilable blood feud. Nightmare replied instantly. Zero hesitation. Not if you want to kill me in the future, just say so directly. You don't need to be this creative about it. There goes the golden thigh I almost hugged. Instead of gaining the most powerful ally in the world, I'd be summoning a deity who could flatten me with a thought and who has personal reasons to annihilate anything connected to Nightmare. But your sisters, I pressed. How did it get this bad? Nightmare paused. Thought about it. Then said with suspicious vagueness, The details are hazy after so many millennia. Perhaps. It may have something to do with me frequently calling her a flat as an ironing board washboard chest back in the day. You know exactly why. The entire history of religious persecution against the night goddess faith suddenly made a lot more sense. It wasn't just theological differences. It was Seraphina making absolutely sure nobody in the world could ever learn that her goddess-tier figure was fraudulent. This wasn't doctrine. This was a cover-up. Hey, Nightmare interrupted my thoughts, annoyed. I feel like you've been mentally roasting me this whole time. As my other half, shouldn't you be plotting revenge against that fake together with me? Revenge? With what? I'm level 17. You want me to fight a goddess backed by hundreds of thousands of fanatics, where even a random regional bishop could one-shot me. Should I use love? Or my level 4 whimper skill? Oh, it's quite simple actually, she said, casual as ordering tea. You just need to seduce the girl walking in front of you. Then, at the moment of physical union, when her consciousness is most vulnerable and her connection to the goddess is at its most exposed, you lean close to her ear and whisper, Seraphina is a flat-chested fraud. I'm already curious what kind of expression that pompous fake will make, and what delightful sound she'll produce, while manifesting beneath you in that moment. 5 seconds of total silence in my brain. That I am now absolutely certain you are not a goddess. You are, at your core, a devil. This cat wanted me to sleep with the future saint of the Church of Light as a tactical weapon against her divine rival. Using Sylvia's body as a conference call to God, specifically to body shame the most powerful deity on the planet. That's not a plan. That's a war crime against multiple religions simultaneously. And she suggested it with the same tone you'd use to recommend a restaurant. I am bound for life to a being of pure unhinged chaos wearing a cat suit, and there is no refund policy. Enough goddess gossip. Time to work. I signaled Sylvia to stay alert and took point, leading us toward the goblin camp. The tunnels got wider, darker, and smellier, that special dungeon perfume of ancient dust and something faintly meaty. When we rounded the last pillar and saw the scene, Sylvia grabbed my sleeve so hard I thought she'd rip it off. Senior Greg. Those are goblins. So many. About 15 green-skinned little nightmares were scattered across the connecting cavern. Rusty swords, crude bows, wooden clubs, grunting at each other in their garbage language. Not organized into any formation, just vibing menacingly near the only path to the mid-level zone. Relax. We can handle this. I kept my voice steady. Confidence is contagious, and right now Sylvia needed a full dose. They're spread out. No real formation. I'll take them head on. You stay behind me. Keep the buffs coming, and use your light magic to disrupt any spellcasters. Got it. She nodded hard, face pale but eyes determined. Why yes, Senior Greg. Good. Buff me up. Sylvia raised her wand, whispered a prayer, and 2 warm waves of light washed over me. Jotunheim's light, strength enhancement. Alfheim's light, agility boost. Oh. So this is what having a support feels like. Power flooded my muscles. My limbs felt lighter, faster, stronger. After days of solo dungeon survival running on fumes and spite, having actual buffs was like going from a bicycle to a sports car. This is why I needed Sylvia before the plot took her away from me. Without light attribute support magic, this fight would be 10 times harder. Let's go. I exploded from cover and closed the gap on 2 unaware goblins before they could even squeak. Dark Arm Guard, activate. Black mist erupted around both forearms. The same void-hungry darkness that ate a church bell yesterday. Against Sylvia's white, buff glow, my arms looked like they were wearing gauntlets forged in a nightmare. Fitting. The first goblin swung a rusty cleaver at my neck. I raised my left arm. The blade touched the black mist and simply stopped existing. The front half of the sword vanished. Dissolved. Eaten. The goblin stood there holding a bare handle, blinking stupidly. Simultaneously, my right fist, wrapped in living darkness, smashed into the second goblin's face. The mist surged forward, engulfed its entire head for a split second, then pulled back. The goblin toppled backward. No visible wound. But its eyes were empty, like something essential had been extracted from its existence. 2 down in 2 seconds. The rest finally noticed me and started screaming. Senior Greg, left side. Sylvia's voice, sharp with urgency, and a light barrier materialized just in time to deflect a sneaky arrow aimed at my ribs. The bolt bounced off the white shield and clattered away. Thanks. I charged into the mob. With Sylvia's buffs active and her barriers covering my blind spots, I was operating at a level these goblins simply couldn't match. They were level 15 to 18, my range, but with enhancement magic and dark void arms? This wasn't a fight. This was pest control. Every weapon that touched my arm guards got partially eaten. Every punch I landed carried a shadow corrosion effect that dropped goblins instantly. I was a black tornado ripping through green bodies while a pink-haired angel kept me buffed and shielded from behind. Sylvia watched the carnage with wide eyes. Gone was the trembling girl from 5 minutes ago. She was firing sacred light bolts at flanking goblins, refreshing my buffs on cooldown, and calling out threats like a natural. Senior Greg is so strong, she thought, mesmerized. So this is dark attribute magic? It's a little creepy, but incredible. We were winning. Hard. One-sided demolition. Then I heard it. A screeching, guttural chant from behind a tall rock to our side. My danger instinct screamed. I spun around. A goblin shaman, feathered cloak, face paint, bone staff, had sneaked around to our flank while I was busy with the warriors. Its staff was aimed directly at Sylvia. Sylvia? Behind you, she turned. Made direct eye contact with a goblin shaman who'd flanked us. Beady little eyes full of malice. Bone staff glowing with a sickly red energy ball aimed right at her face. Sylvia froze. Zero combat experience kicking in at the worst possible moment. Her legs gave out, and she dropped to the ground. The shaman cackled and fired. A corrupted red sphere screaming toward her unprotected face. Too far. 2 goblin warriors between us. I couldn't physically reach her in time. One option left. My untested spell, Dark Wave, level 1. I'd never used it. Had no idea what it did. But my only other ranged attack was Water Gun level 2, and that definitely couldn't one-shot a shaman. If I didn't kill it instantly, its spell would hit Sylvia before I got a second chance. So I poured every drop of dark mana I could into my palm and fired at the shaman. In my head, I was picturing something cool. A Hadouken. A dark energy blast. A roaring shadow beam. Something impressive. What actually came out of my hand was a tiny black at the size of a thumbnail. My soul left my body. That's IT. That's the attack. It looked like a period at the end of a sentence. A speck. A crumb of darkness. I could sneeze something more threatening. Nightmare, you fraud. Your gifts are useless. The shaman saw it coming too. It literally laughed, didn't even bother dodging, just lazily waved its bone staff to swat the pathetic little dot away. Meanwhile, its red death ball was inches from Sylvia's terrified face. The tiny black passed through the bone staff like it wasn't there, like it didn't exist on the same physical plane. Then it silently entered the shaman's chest. Nothing happened. For exactly 1 second. Then my system notifications went insane. Target afflicted with weakness. Target afflicted with blindness. Target afflicted with confusion. Target afflicted with fear. Target afflicted with mana disruption. Target afflicted with life drain. Target afflicted with sensory deprivation. Target afflicted with limb paralysis. Target afflicted with mental collapse. Target afflicted with instant death judgment. The shaman's victory grin twisted into pure agony. Its bone staff snapped in half on its own. Black mist leaked from its eyes, ears, nose, and mouth simultaneously. It seized once, went rigid as a board, and fell backward like a chopped tree. dead before it hit the ground. Every bodily function destroyed at once by a cascade of status effects that read like a medical encyclopedia of suffering. The red energy ball dissolved into nothing an inch from Sylvia's nose. The remaining goblins stared at their dead shaman, made confused honking noises, and collectively decided that today was not the day. I stood there, arms still extended, palms still open, processing what just happened. That pathetic little dot, that crumb I thought couldn't kill a fly, had just inflicted literally every negative status effect in the game simultaneously. Weakness, blindness, confusion, fear, mana disruption, life drain, sensory deprivation, paralysis, mental collapse, and instant death. All at once, from a single hit. Darkwave level 1 doesn't do damage. It does everything else. That's not a spell. That's a war crime compressed into a pixel. I cleaned up the remaining terrified goblins, then rushed to Sylvia. She was still sitting on the ground, staring at the shaman's corpse with an expression caught between shock and awe. I crouched down and offered my hand. "Sylvia, you okay? Are you hurt?" She looked up at me, then slowly placed her hand in mine. I felt her fingers, small, cold from fear, settle into my palm. Her eyes widened slightly at the size difference, and at the warmth still radiating from my hand after the fight. I'm fine," she said quietly, face turning pink as I pulled her to her feet. Then she glanced at the shaman's corpse again. The thing was lying there with black mist still seeping from its face, frozen in an expression of absolute existential horror. I panicked internally. Was she traumatized by the gruesome death scene? Sorry about that. I should have spotted the shaman earlier. It was my fault for not protecting you properly. No. She shook her head quickly, pink hair bouncing. That's not what I was thinking at all. She looked at me with eyes full of curiosity, not fear. I was just wondering. That shaman suddenly dying like that. That was you, wasn't it, Senior Greg? I looked at the thumbnail-sized hole I'd blown through reality's rule book, at the shaman whose entire biological existence had been administratively terminated by a single dark pixel, and at the sweet innocent girl looking at me like I'd done something really cool. Yeah, that was me, honestly. I was just as confused as she was. But I wasn't about to admit that my most powerful attack looked like a fruit fly with an attitude problem.